live from the BOD studios. It is Playin and Slayin, episode 108. And you might be asking yourself, wait, Ty, you just skipped 9 episodes. In actuality, Troy and I are here to record what we're calling episode 100, our birthday celebration. But Troy, I think we have made enough mini episodes and sub episodes and other things that technically, if you've been following along for the last decade, you will see more than 100 episodes. But happy show birthday, Troy.
Yeah, happy 100. Again, we were trying to. Unfortunately, we'll apologize. We're a little late. We had a big gap here. We've had all kinds of. We've had personal emergencies, weather emergencies, recovery from Adepticon, PTO, and vacations. And then we kept, and so we kept rescheduling and scheduling and whatever, because we did want to have more of a celebration with kind of past, present, all our full crew to celebrate 100. So rather than call this 99.9, as we were tempted to do, Ty and I are like, all right, we're gonna do it, and maybe we still in the future, maybe we'll have an episode 100 celebration on like episode 105 or something like that. We'll get some. We'll find a time we get a bigger group together and do a little bit more maybe. But tonight, we'll give it our best. We'll look back a little bit tonight at the craziness.
We'll obviously share in this episode our experiences at Adepticon, provide that update, and then kind of the main topic is certainly Adepticon, but also a celebration of episode 100, some of our favorite moments or episodes, interviews, discussions, before we wrap it up. But obviously, just Troy and I tonight. We hope to get Josh back sometime for the celebration and Bryce joining us. But, life happens and the show must go on. So as the show goes on, Troy, when you're playing and slaying, it is important to stay hydrated. So I'm going to turn it to you first to see what has come out of the BOD fridge for the evening's celebration.
All right. I had to go back to the classic. I found I had a little tiny bit of mango acai blueberry up in the cabinet that I was saving it for this, whatever. So, went to, people aren't familiar, go way back, kind of the house cocktail, Monster, White Monster, Van Gogh vodka, acai blueberry, which I've heard rumors. I don't even know if they make it anymore. I don't know if that can't confirm or deny that they actually still make that flavor. Like there's some other acai ones on the whatever. Yeah, I don't know. We may have to go back and redo the recipe.
We'll have to, or just start drinking Windex, because if you're not joining us on YouTube, Troy did hold up the BOD glassware where the drink has a blue-green tint to it. And we used to say it looks a little bit like watered down Windex, but
tastes much better than. Although I don't drink a lot of Windex, so I can't tell you what. Maybe I don't know. Maybe
kids, please don't try drinking Windex. Don't do that. That's bad for you.
Cool. So what do you got, Ty?
Yeah, so I have a beer that I had brought for Adepticon. I'm going to hold it up here as well. It is from Two Pitchers, so baseball themed, but also, a beer entendre. Two Pitchers Brewing Company. It is their baseline lager. It is advertised as an all-day dad beer, and it says on the one can, "I'll have a cold crusher." It's just a pretty straightforward, fresh lager. It's like a 4.8% or whatever. But I saw it at the store and I was like, that's too good. It's kind of it's my beer. It's my life. Baseball, being a dad, Two Pitchers. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think they're out of California. If I remember where Two Pitchers is.
Cool.
All right. And usually right now is where we would interject with some ad copy for a media network that we are still a part of, but has been rebranded. So recently, Goonhammer did go through a rebrand to Tabletop Battles. So the web page and some of the things are undergoing construction and kind of heading towards the new brand to align with the scorekeeping app that they released, which is really great and super useful as a tool. And since they already had that domain, Tabletop Battles is the new kind of brand. They still have the media network. We're still kind of part of that. Just want to go check it out, take a look. I would call it a work in progress as they work through the navigation and the website. All your old links still work. All of your subscriptions to like shows and other things still work. Nothing changed functionally behind the scenes. Just over time, what became a more problematic word, uh, they had to separate the brand from. So nothing changes. We're still on the media network. You can still search Playin and Slayin on Tabletop Battles and find our shows posted there. And certainly encourage you to check out some of the other content as well. All right. Usually I don't have to say all that, and I'll condense that. I'll generate some good ad copy
We'll make our
for
own.
us to
Yes,
use.
we'll do
Yeah.
it. Yep.
But for now, we are going to go into what we have been playing, purchasing, hobbying, all that fun stuff before we get into Adepticon. Um, so I'll start, and I'm not going to talk about what I played or ran at Adepticon at all. But Bryce and I have initiated a Relic Blade narrative campaign. Since we last recorded, I don't think I talked about the actual games. I think we played after that. But we decided to kind of start writing our own campaign, playing through narrative. So we played one kind of refresher game after having learned Relic Blade with Raph and a multiplayer. And then we played game one of our narrative campaign with our two factions. And what's awesome about Relic Blade is we had a few hours in an afternoon. We played the refresher game in about an hour and 20 minutes. And then we did our war bands and did our like starting campaign. You select a base and like come up with your list. And we played our first game in 50 minutes, probably from the time we started to the time we ended once we had kind of played the refresher. So we got 2 games in, all the campaign bookkeeping and everything in under 2.5 hours, which is pretty awesome because usually that could be like most of a game of like
Yep.
Age of Sigmar.
Yep. No, pretty cool. And I've been listening around. We were joking about our friends on Cubic Shenanigans before, but I think you pulled in Mr. Dan from over there, right? To
Yeah,
play. So.
yeah. I got Dan hooked. He bought models, and talk a little bit about more. But had a chance to kind of show Dan the game and play with him at Adepticon. Trying to hook some other people in. So Relic Blade is a really approachable game. The rules kind of flow at low model count. And I'll talk a lot about that in hobby too, because recently I've been doing a lot of Relic Blade painting and assembling new plastic kits and stuff. So Relic Blade, all web store, one man shop. Have talked about it plenty, but can't stop saying what a great experience playing it has been. So that was a fun game.
Cool.
And then
I think Sean was on Dave Taylor's podcast like 2 weeks ago or something like that. Build it, play it, whatever. Do I get right? I remember what that. But Dave Taylor, he was on there as the guest. Who is the one man show? Sean from
cool,
there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then fast forward a couple months because I didn't play any games until we finally got together for a game night or game day / night. Bryce came down. I got to spend some good time with him and Troy, and we had a game day down in the BOD and played. We started it off. I think we played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles zombie side. Time Crash, is that what it? Time
I think
Crash,
that's right. Yep.
Which is the What's the one with the wall?
It's White Death.
White,
yeah, it's
White Death.
a version. It's the expansion era version of the Zombicide White Death version that came out. Was that the? Yeah, I think that's the latest one. Besides the one I'll talk about that's in Kickstarter right now. But yeah, and then they did kind of an expansion with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Kind of ties in because White Death has more of an Oriental Asian theme to it around there. So yeah, you can play that.
Yeah,
so.
we fought against Shredder and stopped the spread of the corruption and foot soldiers that had come in with the zombies. It was there were some touch and go moments, but we were able to overcome the evil machinations of Shredder and the team of Raphael, Michelangelo, and I think Donatello. Or no, you were Leonardo, right?
Or did I play April? I might have had April.
We had April and
we had April and and who was my? I don't remember who my. Yeah, maybe
I think Leonardo.
Leonardo, I think so.
I did Michelangelo and Casey Jones, and Bryce did Donatello and Splinter.
Yep.
So I mean, the zombie side, right? Like,
yep.
You know what you're getting into. Not a ton changes. There's some
things
cool
you can mechanics
spend to adjust your dice, and you can earn pizza. When you find pizza tokens, you kind of turn your weapon into a slightly better version of it because you've eaten the pizza and now you're ready to be a proper Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. They did just a little bit. Again, there's a little bit different rules for they spawn and whatever. So I really like White Death as kind of mechanic, because they took, again, as they learned, it feels like they learn a little bit and they just tweak the rules just a little bit every version of Zombicide they did. So, but yeah, that was fun. And then I gave I'd let Bryce take the box home because he promised to paint them. So I'm like, hey, cool, that'll work.
And then after that, Bryce selected, trying to think, Fate of the Fellowship.
Yep.
The pandemic rule set. So the pandemic system, I think, is how it's referred to by Z-Man, set in Middle Earth, and we've talked about it, where you're trying always to escort Frodo and destroy the ring and do other kind of submissions with a random cast of Lord of the Rings characters. And we were definitely challenged and met with some adversity in trying to get Frodo to.
Oh, we didn't win, did we?
No, we got our butt kicked.
I was trying to remember. I'm like, we started hot. We were hot.
We did.
Because I'm like, we got this. And we we had cleared like 2 quests by like turn 4 or 5. Like we were rocking. And then, we didn't quite. The end fell apart. So
we just didn't get the card draw ultimately that we needed to have enough rings for Frodo. He sat there at the gates for a number of turns as we were slowly bleeding hope away as more enemies came out than we could get rid of. That's how it goes sometimes. The good guys don't always win. Good doesn't always triumph over evil as much as we would like it to. And sometimes you have 2026. All right. Changing tone, a little more upbeat. I promise. No more grim, dark future discussions. Troy. Well, there will be one.
There will be, I'm sure.
Discussion. Yeah. But we'll start with hobby, which is always uplifting. So, Troy, what have you been getting to the hobby desk after Adepticon?
We even had extended time, as we were talking about, and I'm like, oh, what did I do? And I in my typical April fashion, I did nothing after Adepticon because I'm just gonna basically I put stuff away. That's what I do, because I haul the stuff home, and then it takes me about a month to put everything away. I did, and I marked this is what I count as hobby progress. I did clear my little hobby desk, because and people that I've shown, I have have this mobile, kind of my normal hobby is on like a little, I don't know, it's like a rolling cart, that I have everything on, because then I can move it in front of a TV down here or wherever, and I can get it out of the way when we're playing and things like that. So But that thing gets, the problem is it just keeps getting more and more. Every time I do a project, it gets paint on it, and I never put the paint back in behind me on the things. And so it got to the point where, as I was doing all my little prep for Adepticon projects, I had like a space about 4x4 where I would actually put stuff, and then because everything else was full of either model parts or paint or brushes or what, like because I would just so I did get that cleaned off, kind of reset the mechanism here, so hopefully that'll ready to rock and roll, because I do have some kill teams I like to paint. Maybe I should figure out if I'm going to do some relic blade or something like that. So lots of little projects to new 40K come in. It'll be lots to do.
Sometimes that hobby desk cleanup and just kind of refresh is all you need to unlock, future hours spent at the hobby desk, because clutter over time can overwhelm. So good luck on your clean hobby table adventure to get back to it. Troy, I treated post Adepticon a little differently. I started the day after Adepticon painting. I got home and went right to it, and I hadn't painted in a long time other than train leading up to Adepticon. So since then, I've fallen off a little bit here the last week or two due to some video game distractions that I'm sure I'll touch on. But I painted an entire new Antioch Trench Crusade warband, so about 10 or 11 models, and kind of took some time to do the cloth and armor and the bases and whatnot. So pretty happy with how they turned out. Obviously, you won't be able to see them at this distance, but they're over my shoulder in a display case, because I had to rearrange my whole basement to make a workspace down here for my spouse. So I was moving hobby display cases and shelves and game piles, and I said, just let me get through Adepticon, and then I'll do it. So post Adepticon, I also kind of rearranged my whole basement in my own workspace. And then I've been painting Relic Blade characters. So I started, there's, a couple models that, if you are familiar, makes sense, but Flame Bearer is an old wizard kind of carrying a torch. And then Steel Viper is the new monk model. And then started some of the elves. There's an artificer. He has like a metal arm, and then a human arm, and he's holding this cool like flintlock type pistol. So been having a lot of fun just doing different, a lot of wet blending and a lot of like working with cloth and other stuff to get cool effects. And I've been using my color theory consultant Bryce or ChatGPT when Bryce is asleep and I have a question late at night. So don't ask generative AI what colors to use, but I tell it, this is what color I want it to be. Right. What would be a color that would offset that? Or what would be a color I could blend with this to get that look? Because I'm colorblind, and it's very hard when you're trying to identify what color you're getting. So if there is one thing that AI might be able to do, it's help you late at night when your friend is asleep with color choice for painting models.
Yep. And I have, again, years and years, you're like, oh yeah, I kind of do it. I have been starting, I think I do over at my desk because I unburied it, but I do have a couple like color wheels and things now that I'm at least lay out. So that I can kind of like, because I'm the same thing. I'm very good to like, give me a recipe and I'm like, that'll work. But if I'm left to my own, I'm like, what kind of color scheme do you want? And I'm like, and I feel much more comfortable copying somebody else's than
like, I know I want a cool tone or a warm tone, but I don't know how to do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to just add gray, or I don't want to just add white to lighten something up. Like, I know there are other ways to get there, but I can't see them. So and then I've been doing assembly. So actually the Battle Pigs plastic I built a day or two before Adepticon, and Matt actually started painting them for me at Adepticon. That was kind of his hobby project. And then I've been assembling the Bone and Darkness, which is kind of these skeletal warriors and constructs. So those 2 plastic kits, first plastic that Sean has done for Relic Blade came out a week before Adepticon. He had them there, so I've been working on those, and the kits are really well done.
Yep.
I think it's Archon is the company that like makes his plastic.
Oh, is that
which
who he's
is the
going to?
same
Yeah.
company that does Conquest, Last Argument of Kings. So
and StarCraft
and StarCraft.
and what's the other big one they do? Oh shoot, I have to look. I mean, they're starting to become a real, again, a little bit into foreshadowing Adepticon, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
Archon
obviously
is really
the
getting to
sprue
be
doesn't
a
have
big.
stuff left on it, but like a single sprue for a warband, and then a single page, of the instructions, is what you kind of get out of that that box. So, and then you get a book. He's been reprinting like rules and scenarios and the cards with each of the plastic factions, and I think he's planning on doing more of the factions, kind of getting that treatment. So that's my hobby. A lot of painting. I probably painted about 16 models since Adepticon, which we're just over a month, which is huge for me since I think last year I painted like 2 models total. So, all right, shall we get into the way that I'm sure we're spending some money recently and
Yep.
crowdfunding, backer kit, Kickstarter, whatever else.
Yep.
Have you pledged any of these things that I see on the list of our show notes here?
The
Or
bottom one. So I tried. I have got. Should we run through them? We'll run through. So the big. I think everybody in the world probably has heard the Dungeon Crawler Carl RPG. I think it's close. I don't know if it's how much time it's got left. And
I mean, it's
16
over
days.
$6 million.
Yeah, so we'll
now,
say about
like,
2 weeks. I got 8.5 as I just clicked on it,
yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane.
So I don't know. Somehow one of their ads got me to like, oh, I wonder if I should. And then I'm interested. Yeah. I don't know, but I might just get after the fact, maybe I'll just buy the book or something. Like I don't need the whole craziness. So maybe I'll just go in and get the PDFs or something if I play it.
I looked at it and I'm like, as cool as I think Dungeon Crawler Carl is, I'll never play it. I'm only interested from a like, how did they do this type mechanical like analysis that I'd be interested in.
Yep.
And I don't need all the stickers, dice, minis.
Yeah, I don't need the boxers. Yep. Like the
dice bags. Yeah.
Yep.
Like it's crazy. And if you're a fan of the book and you like it, I'm sure that's where they're getting. I mean, like $8.5 million doesn't say people aren't interested. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy from a RPG gaming standpoint. And it is, Renegade Game Studios that has, over the last several years, picked up a lot of licensing and done a lot of things with it. So, it is, I'm sure this is a really good home for the Dungeon Crawler Carl like IP. I know Matthew Dinneman is doing some appearances and kind of will be at Gen Con and other things with promotion, and so cool to see, worth checking out. And it appears still accepting for 16 days at the time of recording. I don't know if you just said that.
Probably, So probably about 2 weeks left when you're hearing this, probably. Cool. And then I had another one on here, but it's almost over, although I'm sure his things will be there. I thought it was interesting that, it's because April's over. So Mega Dungeon Month was April. And so on Backer Kit, a whole bunch of smaller companies kind of did these mega dungeon kind of things. So I think you had, what was the ones I was looking for? Like Gary Gygax's Castle Zygic. I don't know how to pronounce that. Which is, I think they took one of Gary's old kind of dungeon crawl things and dusted that off. Monty Cook. This Jewel in the Sky almost got me. It was interesting because it's like dual, like mega dungeon, but it can be in like a sci-fi or a fantasy kind of. So interesting story. Again, Monty Cook, they're doing some really cool things. I think that's the whatever their system is. That's the only thing that was like, it's in the, is it the Cypher system? Yeah. And I'm like, so again, I'd be interested in buying it just to kind of read it. Like, oh, it seemed like it really had some good premise to it around some of that. So I assume all these will be like their campaign will be over because by the time you hear this, it'll probably be May. And the Die RPG, they did it there. That almost also looked cool. It was like, again, I don't know if I'd play it, but it'd be cool. It was kind of the story, and to see how they did it was kind of interesting. So, but a lot of, again, smaller publishers I thought was kind of cool, and they all kind of cross promoted to get that over there. So it looks like they and they got a decent number of backers. It looks like raised over $1 million. Cool. Almost 2 million out of all things. So for a lot of these smaller group companies, that's pretty cool.
All right. Then we talk Zombicide, Troy.
Yep. And Zombicide, and I was trying not to get this. So the Pirate Zombicide, which I don't remember what the real name is, and is on, but what got me, because as I was looking again, because they send me a note every
Dead Men Tales.
Dead Men Tales. There we go. Yeah. That's Pirate Zombicide, which is interesting. I'm like, I don't know that pirates aren't my like super thing, but what got me is I dug in, and I think we had talked about, I don't know, it's probably years ago before the kind of collapse of CMON or whatever, they were talking about Plaguebearer, which is the RPG set in the Zombicide world. So in our common theme here, Ty, of wanting to look at RPGs that we may or may not ever play, although this one I could see actually getting to the table as kind of like a alternate to Zombicide of using all the miniatures and stuff, and using like doing a dungeon crawl kind of thing. So they've got Plaguebearer kind of with that Kickstarter. That's what got me, because I'm like, all right, I do want to check out Plaguebearer. I was looking at some of the mechanics. They had some samples and partial rulebook and stuff out there. Run some of that. So I did end up pledging that because I do want to get the Plaguebearer RPG out of that. So I think I'm trying to think. I don't think I think they have it as like two different. I think you can just pledge for Plaguebearer. You don't have to do the Pirate Zombicide. I can't remember if I had to or not. I don't think so. I don't think you even need to do the base, but
the heroes look pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan of the zombies from looking at the minis, but the characters look really cool, and the necromancer, the governor, is kind of fun.
Yeah, they have some cool. And I think again they're leaning into the nautical stuff. I think they got some kind of, some of the like abominations are like big sea monster guys or something like that. So I mean, there's plenty for them to work within a theme. So I can see. I'm sure they'll do a decent job around some of that, but I don't know that I need yet another Zombicide.
I mean, you can fire cannons to destroy zombie hordes. So all right. Dead Men's Tales, Fantasy Zombicide. And it's Fantasy Zombicide because it is Fantasy Flight Games. Oh, okay. So Asmodee has snapped up their IP and also decided they're not big enough to fund this themselves, so they put it onto the fans to raise over $1 million. It's crazy, man.
Pre-order.
Just crazy. Pre-ordering. Yep. Ah, all right.
How many to make?
Well, other stuff, real quick. Some video games have taken some time. I started with Crimson Desert, which is, I would call it a sandbox style adventure game. The world is really cool. The gameplay is really satisfying, but there is absolutely zero story behind it. So like a lot of people panned it for, not being RPG enough. I was like, this is cool, but it kind of, I got distracted and started hobbying a ton and kind of set the controller down and haven't been back. because I've also been playing Windrose. So you just talked about Pirate Zombicide, Troy. My brother and Danner and your brother, Ben, and I have all been taken in by this survival game that recently came to early access, called Windrose, where you are pirates fighting against various enemies, both nautical and land-based, exploring ruins, solving puzzles, and building. And it's a cool kind of survival building pirate game. Having a lot of fun with that. So um, those video games have distracted me from hobbying of late the last few weeks, but I will definitely continue painting. So have no fear, as most things in video games are. They are highly addictive for a short time, and then they flame out. We've also learned at Adepticon and after that there is a new edition of Warhammer 40,000.
The worst secret ever. Yep.
Yeah, crazy. They stuck to their 3-year plan, and here we are on the verge of a month away, roughly, from 11th edition. Maybe we can have a 11th edition release reaction episode where we talk about the new starter box and the rules and our hype.
Probably not, but
why not? Let's do it.
I don't know. We'll have to give it our spin. Here's what. Yeah, we'll do what we think of the new 40K, which will be good because it's the same. It will not be. It will not be what's the toughest competitive thing. It'll be like, hey, does this lean in? And I guess semi-seriously or whatever, right? It is interesting. I think some of the changes that at least I've heard. I am not one of these people who's trying to get every little thing that as they spit out, right? The pieces. I'm more than happy to get I will probably get the box set just because I always do and check it out. But it does sound like some of the changes around, hey, objectives should be more terrain built. It does sound like they're trying to lean a little bit into 40K being 40K because I mean 9 and 10 did start to feel a little for lack of a better kind of War Machine-ish, where you're playing more a very tactical board game kind of, and the miniatures were playing second fiddle in the train, in trying to get back to the this is truly a miniature game, and you're telling stories. Again, you could always play that way, but it felt like the competitive scene was really kind of leaning away from that, and it'll be interesting. Again, the competitive scene will always still be the competitive scene, so and there's a lot of energy there, so they can do what they want. But it feels like, at least GW is trying to kind of, because that's not the major. Most people do not play competitive, right? It's it gets 90% of all the media coverage, but right, it's actually, I would imagine their marketing would tell them it's the opposite. Is that 90% of the people that are buying their stuff are not playing in the Adepticon tournament, right? It's
So Troy, let me get your on-air reaction. I think in our BOD Discord of late, there's been a lot of conversation in the 40K channel post Adepticon. What has surprised you the most in the BOD Discord chatter?
What? Oh, that you are dabbling your toe, foot, you're almost up to your elbow, maybe, of oh, maybe I'll at least put something together and play a little bit. So
I am also, so I have reconciled with the fact that to play a full-on miniature game with one of my best friends ever at Adepticon next year, I'll need to play 40K. And had a discussion with him. This is Matt Danner, of course, at Adepticon, about why he thinks 40K is actually a really good game very late at night. And I kind of said, all right, well, new edition. Let's see if I can do this. So I'll make it happen. Fully painted, 2,000 points. But I'm still not giving Games Workshop directly a penny. This entire army is going to be a combination of outsourcing my models to other providers, or buying from retailers that I really like and want to give some money to. So I did for the first time, and I looked in my PayPal history since roughly 2020-ish. My first mini stomp order was made and paid within the last month, and I got on the pre-order list for the new starter box with mini stomp. So, how about that?
That's pretty cool. Yeah, you're ahead of me because I'm not. Because I'm like, I don't know that I need the starter box. This starter box actually for the first time in quite a few. I'm not super excited, but when you look at them, like, yeah, there's some pretty cool models in there, and
I mean,
I've never been a big orc guy,
and it's orcs that got me. That's how I'm gonna. That's my new army. I'm continuing with my theme of orcs and AOS and all things green. So the boys and I are gonna build a mech army to take over the world.
Yeah, they are fun because again, I have John, a combat patrol I built from John's orcs I've talked about that I kind of revived, refurbished, whatever they are. And so they are fun to play. They were fun to put on the table, fun to play. And I keep looking at them because they're sitting out, and I'm like, oh, I should rebase those and get them. Yeah. So
I forgot to talk about this in Hobby Troy, but I painted orcs. So I got the kill team, the Rekka crew, and I started painting orcs. And I found a video that somebody did, which was like the craziest orc skin ever. And it so it started with purple. You base the whole model purple. Then you do your mid-tone. They used like a sponge. I just kind of brushed it on like I was painting like muscle sections. Pink, like bright pink. And then you do your highest highlights with yellow. And then you come over it with a green wash. So I did a 50-50 of like a contrast medium and a green speed paint to make like a glaze.
Yep.
And then did a second coat over it. So like the recesses, the purple tones are there. The pink and yellow get kind of covered by the green. So I was like, I sent Bryce a before and after, and he's like, "You're crazy." And then I sent him, and he's like, "That actually looks really good."
Yeah,
like,
the pictures look good.
At first,
I think you showed a couple. Yep,
really crazy. So
yeah, the first one when you did the purple undercoat, you're like, all right, believe in the process. Yeah. Believe in the process.
Yeah. So that's but I am gonna. So what I'm excited about with orcs is I'm gonna vary the skin tone. So I'm not doing batch painting for this army. I'm gonna do like a model when I feel like it.
Only like 5 guys, right? I don't even know what the orc.
Well, the kill team is, right? But yeah, like the whole army, I'm gonna do different like themes and armor. So it's gonna be like a true proper orc force. No uniforms, no. Cool. All right. Yeah. So that was big news. But let's skip the big news and go into the library. So as always, you and I watch stuff and read stuff. What have you been reading since Adepticon?
It's funny. We have to go so far back because I think our last episode, I was in Daughter's War, Christopher Beelman's prequel
book 2. Yeah.
And
Black Tongue Thief.
And Black Tongue Thief. I think I finished that up. Really enjoyed it. It was good. I would still Black Tongue Thief is probably a little. I like that just a little bit better. But again, it was fun and to kind of go with that character. That was good. Went for other one. Short story or novella probably. Kind of one of the old ones. I'd like to go back and read like old sci-fi because it's interesting. Especially so Ursula Le Guin. There's a short story I found. The word for world is forest. And boy, I don't know, that story's probably 40 years old, maybe more around some of that. Sci-fi. What was interesting is how much it still a lot of the themes around colonization, taking care of the planet, the people coming, a lot of the themes that Ursula had back in the 70s very much resonated with for me with where we are today. So it's just really good. It was really good. And again, you had some a native, we'll call it a native species right there, and then the humans come in and doing all the things humans do around some of that. So, but yeah, I just love to kind of go back and realize that again, some of these themes have been continuing, like we, around some of that, and very cool. The just started, as I was talking about as we that it's been a while. Like I think I've read 2 books. We started the show notes, and then I think I've read 2 books since then. But no, not really. But Children of Strife, which is the 4th book from, I got to think who's the Adrian
Tchaikovsky.
Tchaikovsky, yep. So that's like Children of Time was the first one. So this is the 4th. I didn't even know he was going to do like 4th in the series. Just I'm kind of, I don't even know, I'm probably not even 25% in. But that world that he's built is kind of interesting.
We still on spiders?
There's the spiders there. There's spiders. There's octopus. There's other people. There's capital H humans. But what's cool is he's like a little bit of Children of Time. He's messing with. It's a parallel. I'll call it a parallel story. It's parallel and it's coming out because he does go all the way back to kind of the origin of like Children of Time starts when basically the earth has fallen apart and everybody's trying to get off, and then there's the terraformers that kind of start the whole thing. So this is kind of parallel, and it really moves through that. So he starts way back there and then moves the story all the way through, and you're jumping a little. It's interesting because he's telling pieces of the story about, because the people basically end up on this planet in, we'll call it present day. And then he's telling back kind of the story of this half terraformed planet from back millennia ago. And then also, and then you have this idea, again, he does with a lot of the Ark ships. So these people that left Earth basically went to sleep for hundreds, thousands of years to travel to these terraformed planets. So again, if you're like the universe that he's built up over the last few books, really enjoying that, along with some of the tricks he does with some of the time things. And it's just funny. Maybe it's just me. I really love non-human protagonists and characters, and the way he's able to, like, because it just gives you he does a really good different perspective, right? When there are, again, humans in there and whatever, but there are also other life forms that are also characters in there, and have we'll call it intelligent spiders, intelligent crawfish, kind of, and he does a lot. Again, I don't remember what his background is. He has some kind of scientific background around some of that stuff, so it is kind of interesting how you get some real science kind of weaved into a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So, there was, as you can tell, I really love those. Children of Time is probably one of my favorite books ever. Just really cool, but I'll let you know how this one comes out.
Yeah, it's an interesting like series. He took it from what a lot of people would say is kind of like, I don't want to call it speculative sci-fi, right? Like, but you wouldn't think it would have had the appeal that it did, and then you read it and you really enjoy it. And now to see it's 4, you said 4 books.
Yeah, this is the 4th book. Yeah. And because I figured after, again, like typical, I figured 3, and each of the books is very self-contained, like, around story around, but, so yeah, enjoying that one. And then the last thing I'm reading is a comic book that I don't know how this guy, again, it probably crossed maybe Amazon or somebody crossed in front of me, was The Wicked and the Divine by Kieran Gillen, who we've talked about, was the author of Die, the graphic novel story, and that interesting. Again, I got sucked in. I'm about halfway through. I think there's, I don't know. It was funny. I was in the library and they had the complete for people on thing. It's got to be 4 inches, 5 inches thick. Like they have the complete version. It was sitting on the shelf at the library. I was tempted to like, oh, maybe I should get, but I'm like, it's actually just so much more convenient to read it on my iPad, like to flip through around that. But I think I have the first volume or whatever that. But it's this idea again. Gillen, always has, I don't know, I'll call it interesting ideas. It's that these gods, every 90 years, kind of 12 gods kind of reincarnate as humans. They basically, normal humans kind of become them. They kind of get, well, I don't know, possess is the right word. They kind of form into these 12 gods who have all kinds of powers, but they burn out. Like in 2 years, then they're dead and gone. And so it's interesting. The story kind of starts in the middle of this, like the gods exist and just a lot of dynamics. And so you have to imagine if you'd have, and then each of the gods kind of get, they draw cults around themselves a little bit and some of that, but set in a normal, I don't say semi-normal, like normal day, around some of that stuff too. So, kind of stylized, yeah, very mature. I'll say that for sure. Like Gillen stuff normally is around that. So enjoying that. It's not kind of a little different, but pretty cool.
Awesome.
I think that's all.
And then
it
looks like some viewing, maybe.
Yeah, and a little viewing. I caught up on Zootopia 2.
Excellent.
And all I'll say is, I did not realize the whole that there was controversy on Zootopia. Maybe I missed that whole thing until I listened to Malcolm Gladwell's revisionist history. I'll let people go off and do that, but
I'll have to look into this.
Have you heard?
I'm not familiar.
I did. So all I'll say is like the premise is that basically Disney stole the idea for Zootopia. Like they got pitched the idea by this writer. And they said, no. And then like a year and a half, 2 years later, Zootopia comes out and it's literally including the name Zootopia. Like that was like, they basically, and of course it's so hard to prove, right, that an idea isn't, that
right.
he got kind of screwed. And I'll cut to the punchline is Zootopia 2 is basically someone at Disney, and they think they know how to do it. Go listen to the Malcolm Gladwell. Zootopia 2 is basically an apology to this guy, someone at Disney, and how they got it past all the Disney lawyers, who knows? But if you know anything about the original story, I didn't know. I mean, you can watch it and not have any clue of it, right? But as soon as someone tells you that, you're like, oh, yep. Like there's just this little bit read between the lines, and the whole Zootopia 2 is basically an apology for IP infringement, or basically stealing this writer's story on some of that stuff too. So that's what got me. Like I was like, I should watch it at some point. But when I listen to the pipe, I'm like, all right, now I have to watch it. And it's a pretty good movie. And Zootopia is good, and Zootopia 2 is pretty good too. So, and then I know you don't do it, but I have. What's the coolest thing is there is a Warhammer Plus app on my Roku, so now I find I watch a little more Warhammer video on there, and they do have a cool new series.
The paywall.
Yep, and they do have a new cool series with Sisters of Battle that I was kind of watching.
So every streaming service in the world seems to be upping their prices. Has Warhammer Plus gone up from $6 or whatever it was?
You know what? I have no idea. I don't know what I pay anymore. I want to say it's still under 7. Don't quote me on that though. Maybe it is like 90 now. I don't know. I want to say it's still like 70, but.
All right, just curious, because everything else price goes up every year, so I was just curious.
Well, and Warhammer does too, so I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that it hasn't, but.
All right. Well, I've been doing some reading too. Not entirely as much. I've slowed down a little bit, but I started Joe Halderman's Forever War. So I've been reading that in paper. What's very interesting is I did not realize until I had started it that it is a Vietnam era book. I didn't know that it had been written back, following his own experiences
Yep.
there, and kind of
It,
didn't know that history, and that it was not really well received then, but became much more popular later.
yeah.
So, interestingly enough, sci-fi readers of the 70s didn't want a book that was based on such a recent kind of
Yeah.
horrific event
You
like
got to
the
think about
Vietnam
how
War.
fresh
Yeah,
the Vietnam War
yeah,
was when it came out. But
um,
it's a class. I mean, it's one of those books
yeah,
that
yeah.
I almost like everyone should read.
Well, I
It is
remember you
really, really
saying that,
good.
and over the last year or two, as I read Old
Mhm.
Man's War, and I'm going through some of these recommendations and older books that I hadn't touched yet. So in enjoying that, um, I did. So I listened to Operation Bounce House. So I got the really
Oh,
cool hardcover, broken binding kind of book from you, and put that on the shelf. And I listened to it on Audible.
uh,
Um, Definitely interesting. Definitely kind of, talk about some of the dangers of AI and warning. There's some more
uh,
from Dinneman, you're expecting like Dungeon Crawler Carl,
yeah.
zany comedy. This is a little more serious. There's still some humor, but like it's more of like a, war story than anything else. But actually enjoyed it. Had a good time kind of listening to that. Um, and then I ran out of Audible credits until my annual plan renewed April 17th. So I had a stretch there where I had to go look in my library, and I started listening to Adrian Tchaikovsky's fantasy series, Empire of Black and
Mhm.
Gold. Couldn't really get into it. Um, Evidently, he was still on his insect kick back then because
That
all the people are wasp soldiers or
yep.
spiders. So, but they're like human, but they identify with it. It's like a caste system. I don't know. I didn't finish it. I tried because I had it downloaded. I went back to N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth
Mm.
books, and I tried to make it a little further through that. Um, Realized I probably had stopped listening too long ago, so I was like, after a few hours more, I'm like, one day I'm just gonna have to go and like restart.
Restart it.
Um,
Yeah.
so I was kind of like trying to find something to catch, and then my credits hit, and I've had a book on my like TBR list for years. I've always heard it's an incredible story. I've always enjoyed Western genre films and books. So Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove, which is considered, it's on every top 10 book that every man should read or every, whatever should read all the time. Uh, I think it's over 40 years since the book was published. I think the book was published in like 84 or 85. Um, but I got that on Audible, and there's a cool introduction on this edition by Taylor Sheridan. So, like the creator of all the Yellowstone and all that stuff, and how he talks about reading Lonesome Dove as a kid and how instrumental it was in him not pursuing the family business, which was law enforcement, and going into telling stories. And so, like, he talks about how the pull of a book, one work of fiction, can kind of change your path in life. um, I've really, really been enjoying it. The narration's really good. The story is one of those where I can listen for 15 minutes and you can hear a description of a guy sitting on a porch drinking whiskey and seeing what's happening and still feel like the story's moving as the characters start to develop. Like I've really it is quickly becoming one of my favorite books as I listen, like of all time. And I don't say that often, but I'm really
Yeah.
enjoying the experience. Um, it's also making me want to go find the original miniseries, and like when I'm done with the book, go back and watch, because you talk about classic Robert Duvall, Tommy Lee Jones, Ricky Schroeder played Newt, the kid. Like there's all these
Oh.
famous actors of the 80s, that you see in the cast list. But yeah, so Lonesome Dove, I'm spending time with, Gus and Captain Call and Newt and others as they get ready for their cattle drive. So they're just about to head with the herd up towards Montana from Lonesome Dove, Texas. So, highly encourage everyone, if you haven't read Lonesome Dove, to give it a shot and see. And then post Adepticon, Troy did listen to some of our friends, independent characters. Wanted to hear Carl and Josh and Adon talk about their Adepticon experience. Then I listened to Cubic Shenanigans, listening to Brendan kind of break down the spectacle that is the AOS teams and their contribution, which we'll talk about, and Dan's kind of experiences. And then I've also been watching Critical Role Campaign 4 while I hobbied. So I got through the first, I think, 6 episodes during some of my painting time. So I'm not current by any means. I think they're on episode 21 or 22 now. But I'm making progress through campaign 4 with Brendan Lee Mulligan, which is a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it, like the different table, the casts coming in and out. So that's what I've been listening to a lot of, reading a little bit of.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. See, you're reading forever. I don't think I can get into Lonesome Dove. I hate to tell you, I don't know. It's just not my. I don't think I can.
I know it's not, but just try it from the standpoint of the storytelling, the characters, like the writing. Like it is a masterpiece of like fiction writing. So even if you don't read the whole thing, just read.
Maybe I'll see if I can
the first chapter.
Dip my toe in there. Sure.
I'm sure you could even get the preview of the book like online or something.
Right. And then I could. Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right.
And I will say, Ty, super surprisingly, Warhammer Plus is still $60 a year. I just jinxed it. I just jinxed it because they'll probably say it's about
coming in July.
Jump to 80. It'll jump to 80.
Everybody, we're increasing our prices 20% to align with.
I just assumed I was paying more.
Oil
I just assumed
I assumed the oil running the Mechanicus machines that publish the digital stream. All right, let's just do it. I was going to say let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Adepticon 2026. But we don't need a break. We've still got beverages. We've still got each other.
That's our break right there.
There's our break. Take a sip and come on with us as we talk Adepticon. So, Adepticon.
We'll take one breath right here for people on YouTube. All right, and we'll breathe out. And just in case that didn't work, that gave me a little room to edit if it didn't work, but it did work. So
that's genius.
So for people who are only listening, we're gonna do a little slideshow to help us remember, since Adepticon was like a month ago for us, around that. So if you're on YouTube, you can watch along with us over that. And if you're listening, we will try and be very descriptive. Maybe we'll try and Ty, keep me accountable. If I just if we say this and that, maybe we actually have to say what this and that are.
We have to pretend we're generating the captions for each of these photos. That's what we should actually have done, Troy, is just say one sentence captioning each photo, and that's our review. But yeah, so Adepticon was at the Baird Center for year 2 in downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And as we had last year, this year we had a room very close to the room we were in last year, but a new room on the kind of north end, bottom ground floor of the new building, N107A. And that was our BOD room for the weekend. So this here, obviously is a picture showing a door with a door sign describing the events that we were hosting in the room throughout the weekend. Then, as a very impressive stretch of tables with chairs and black linen sheets dressing the tables before our setup. So a good space. a lot of room for games. I don't know, what were they, like 16 by 4?
Yeah, I think. Well,
Or
yeah,
20?
16 by, yeah, I think because you had two, yeah, I think there was 8-foot tables and we had 4-foot and then 6-foot. If you go way, way back in this picture, you'll see where we'll get to Space Hulk, but the ones in the back, the row in the back is 6 foot wide, around some of that. And we can talk about, I threw these in here to just, you talked about the venue, and our setup. I mean, we did set up on, really it starts for me on Tuesday. Really, I go down and Ty and I loaned our board games, the Geek Nation tours for Terrace. We've been the last couple of years providing them with a little board game library that gets a little bit of use. So that's Tuesday because he has people coming in. So I usually start Tuesday afternoon now, going down and checking things out. I think that's where these pictures are from. I usually scout things out, especially this year. We knew we were in a slightly different room, but worked out really good around where it was. So I think that's it. And then we came in Wednesday, and what was nice, we did all our setup Wednesday for Space Hulk. We kind of, by noon Wednesday, we load in, and then everybody started to roll in, because then John and I were there with our van and loading, and then I think Ben was flying in, and then you showed up and Gabe showed up with a truck, and and
Yep.
we were
Tables started
to
rolling
it.
into
So
the room.
yeah.
And then, so the next picture that you're seeing, if you're on YouTube, or we'll describe to you here, is the last year. I think we talked about the main convention, one of the new rooms with all the windows and a really great space that was used for some of their shows, like the auto show last year, was opened up this year. Last year they didn't have anything in there for Adepticon. This year they expanded into that space. And there's this really impressive row of windows that lets some light in. A lot of times in a convention center space, you just don't have daylight. You get that
Yeah.
ever-present overhead, either fluorescent or LED kind of bright lighting. But what they really did that was cool with the space is they set up some food options. GW kind of set up their whole shop, and in this photo, it's all kind of in packing crates. In the back left of the image, but quite a bit of extra room, and a lot of the AOS and 40K events were in that room as well. So
yeah, and this was I think from Wednesday. That was Wednesday when I was Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday. I was poking around. People are setting up. Yeah, our next picture. This will kind of go. We'll talk about what we did. This is a copy of our poster that was outside. I don't know if I actually have a picture of it outside the room, but we had I created kind of signage. You saw they had electronic signage, but we wanted to have a little nicer signage for people to find our events. Because it's kind of the good and bad about being in your room by yourself. Like I love having our own room. It makes things there, but sometimes if people are trying to find events, they're trying to poke their head in every room or trying to figure that out. Or when you get people walking by. I think it really helped our spot this year. It seemed like we got a little more walk through traffic because we were right on the corner when you came in on the, what was that, north side of the building, right there. So I think we got a few people poking their head into and seeing some of the cool stuff we were doing.
I think we did a great job of saying where we were, because I didn't have anyone complain about that, but I did have probably 60 to 70 people over Thursday and Friday stop in and ask if I was a different event that was further back along the hall from where we were. So front and center, I also became a Trench Crusade tournament and narrative event ambassador by being at the front door in front of their room.
You knew where all basically they were right behind us. Really, they were literally in the room behind us, but did not have a lot of signage unless you went over there and looked. So, all right. So speaking of that, the next bunch of pictures here, Ty, are going to be the Trench Crusade boards and the tournament as we get into.
Yeah. So Dr.
I think we have pictures of all your boards here coming up. So
Yeah, Dr. Gabe and I ran a 1-day narrative Trench Crusade event called The Last Toll. We had 6 tables with custom scenarios. So when we set up, a few of the tables were older ones that I've talked about over the years that Brian, good friend Brian Nero, um, made over a decade ago. And then a mix of new ones. So this is one of the new ones. This was a trench system that he kind of used. What was really cool is the materials to make this table. He had bought a new desk for one of his sons, and the desk, the box had kind of that compressed corrugated cardboard that they fill space with in the box between like the shelves of the desk. He cut that up in the sections, mounted on the wood, and that formed the trench and the trench walls with a little glue over the top and paint. And then the tables continued from the trenches into like a swamp. So he did a resin pour that I think was still curing when Gabe got it to the venue on Wednesday afternoon. Um, but we had a beast. I used one of the Oathsworn models that I had painted.
That's
That was
right.
a creature that could be kind of summoned to the battlefield and then rampage across it. Um, and this proved to be a true killing field of a table. Not a lot of cover, so some very violent encounters were had in the swamp. Another new table, and what was really cool about all 3 of these tables that Brian Nero made this year is they all connected. So they're individual 3x3s, but when pushed together, they form kind of one large diorama, like a scene kind of unfolds across it. Then we had the ancient ruins of like an old church situated on kind of a flat plain. So the trenches and the swamp lead into the ruins of the church, and it was some 3D printed terrain that he painted up. And what you can't see in photos and know about is at the bottoms of each of the pieces of terrain. He really got into the theme, and he wrote various trench crusade like inscriptions on the bottom. Like one I think talked about the angel Gabriel, because Dr. Gabe, obviously, and other trench crusade slogans and mottos on the bottom of the terrain. So as we set it up, we got to see little messages from Brian.
Cool. And then I think, yeah, these are the
Yep. So
older tables.
the
Yeah.
older
Yeah.
tables that we added some terrain to, though, to make them look cool. So like the bell tower, that the last whole narrative kind of took place around the bell tower sorties. So I can talk a little bit as you show the next table or two. Um, we did 6 custom scenarios. We had the armored train, we had the bell tower, we had some bunkers and minefields and various things. But the games were all fought between 2 factions. So you had a patron. We assigned it when you registered and showed up that morning, either to be a patron of um, Saint Dunstan or Belial. So kind of the forces of heaven, forces of hell. We describe these battles as being far behind enemy lines that were fought over a number of days in the rain and the mud as various war bands tried to gain glory. And the whole concept was, that we didn't have a true winner based on battle points of the event, but we did offer award for the most glorious. So whoever completed the most glorious deeds over the course of their 3 games. And we let our players pick the table they wanted and pick their opponent each round. Um, but it was, we ran it Thursday, ran it Friday, had a really good time. I think people enjoyed it.
Cool.
Got to know
Where did
some
the
new
train
folk.
come from on this one? Is this another 3D print from
That's a
Gabe?
3D print. Yeah, the tracks and the train were 3D prints that Gabe found and painted up. But
This
then
one's
just some
yeah.
more views of all the tables, kind of our rows. And then I think we have some photos coming up of
Yep.
players throughout the events. Gabe and I at the registration with our 3D printed grenade and helmet
Yep.
and trench knife, which ended up becoming awards. But we had a number of players, and then some in action shots as you see people kind of get in together to roll dice. Um, Brian Nairo got a game in, so we didn't. We
Mhm.
had 10 show up one day, and I think 11 show up the next day out of our 12 players. So you always get some drops, which is disappointing, but we were able to get one of the guys in the wait list in a game against our Brian. So that was a Brian versus Brian battle in the trench board there.
And I think that's Josh Sawyer from Independent Characters right behind him.
Yep, that appears to be Josh there. So, and then the wonderful Dr. Gabe.
Dr. Gabe. I wonder that Sky Herrick way in the back again, if you know from ICs, runs the game store out there. I think that's Sky and some other people on the tower table.
People playing, having fun. It was a lot of I don't know what the noise level was like for you guys in the back, but there was a lot of fun had, a lot of good games played. So
yeah, not again. Yeah, I think what's nice, you're in a carpeted room, soft walls, and in some ways the noise. I mean the whatever. A lot of times there was a lot going on in there. Like we had all 3 different games going on. At some points we did have like Zombicide, Space Hulk, and the Trench Crusade tournament going on. But I wouldn't say it was ever uncomfortably loud. It was all just more exciting loud.
I definitely started to lose my voice as and then actually, so we talked a little bit about Dan and I playing Relic Blade.
Yeah.
So we did use one of the tables cleared off the train, and I taught Dan kind of how to play. We did a Waystone scenario. So this is just us kind of in action as I taught Dan the Relic Blade kind of core rules, and we ended up getting a second game in too at another table. But that Saturday afternoon was kind of like we had the table as people dropped in, and we were letting some of the players that had played in our games came back with friends who wanted to play pickup games. Dave Taylor and Josh played a game of Trench Crusade on the same table that last year they used for Combat Patrol. So there were various people using the terrain and tables throughout the weekend, which was cool as well. And then I just took some photos of various models that we saw. All of the war bands. What I will say is, running a narrative event, I wasn't sure, how much people would focus on the hobby, but there was definitely some good work.
Whose is this? Do you know who this is?
So that's
crazy.
Josh from Independent Characters. One of his Court of the Seven with the kind of flame effect and everything was pretty cool looking. So we did have players vote for favorite warband, and we said use whatever means you want. So some people based it on what their stuff looked like, some based it on like traditional like sportsmanship votes. But people did a really nice job. Then we made some certificates, because if you run an event of less than 16, you don't qualify for Adepticon medals, even if you ask nicely.
We'll have to ask nicer. Yeah.
But we printed our own trophies, printed our own certificates, just so our players would have something. Then did go and get some prize support, so some random paints, which is another process. Troy, I don't know if you've ever done the GM headquarters for printed materials or prize support. Yeah, an interesting experience. But we got some stuff, which is cool. There was some various paints, hobby supplies, like some basing effects, or tufts, like so our prize support, and we tried to give each person a little something to go home with.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I think this is Josh Sawyer, right?
Josh did win Most Glorious on day 2. Got the grenade, which is TSA approved. He was able to fly with it home. So although it looks like a crazy World War I era grenade, it is actually just plastic filament. So
cool. All right. Anything else on Trench Crusade? Because
we're already we're already talking about doing it bigger next year. So we're going to add 2 tables. We actually have a Father's Day weekend planning session / gaming event at Casa de Niro in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Gabe's going to try to come in from St. Louis. Will Conway is going to be in town from Ireland. Trying to see if we can get Danner to fly in to attend, but we're just going to hang out at Brian's and make one of the tables and play some games and work on new scenarios, because we'd really like to expand we can't, we're staying within our means and what's reasonable, but we feel like a 16-player event is easily doable to add 2 tables into the mix. So we definitely want to do it again. Tweak some of the scenarios, make some adjustments, but kind of come back, because it seemed to be well received. It seemed to sell quickly, and I think we'll continue to fill in a niche of, kind of counter to like a competitive event, or different than the other narrative events that you'll get, and fulfill that, because there were some cool people that really enjoyed it and said, "Oh, I'll definitely do this again." So yeah,
and it again, there was plenty of demand, and you had your tournament, and like we mentioned, you had I'll call it the other Trench Crusade events were going on around the corner. I think they had a combination there, right? They had more of a competitive, that the tabletop battles guys, or you can say Goodhammer ran, right? They had something there, and then there was some other, I don't know what the other group was that was running.
It was actually the Factory Forge, the
okay.
group that makes Trench Crusade, and they came by, and they were actually very complimentary of our tables and our event. I spent some time talking to one of the developers, Sammy from Factory Forge, and explaining what we were doing, and they were like, "This is really, really impressive." And I didn't tell them I hadn't played a game since last Adepticon, and I was just an event facilitator, but I faked it till I made it. So
that's hey, you're in the Trench Crusade juice. You're stewing in it. You didn't have to play. Like that's you were making it all happen.
Yeah, and told the tale of Private Lucian with his letters home that we read between rounds. So
are we going to put those up? I think you owe me those. We're going
to
post them up on the website. Because there are some, I think, I don't know if we told people, I don't remember. So we do have the pack and everything. If you go on the website, basementofdeath.com, there's a Trench Crusade tab. And I put a lot of the stuff that Ty used for that. So if you're curious on kind of more of the details and things like that, and like we said, we'll probably put up a little bit more of the stuff that they used for the event, if you're curious.
I'll get that to you.
Cool. All right. Now, the other thing that we might have run would be Space Hulk. So if you're not, what I have up here now is, if people have played, we've always had a turn counter on an iPad that, at least for, I don't even know, it's been a long time. We've been doing it because basically the iPad I used to run, it had gone out, and the only thing I was using it for, because it was such an old iPad, was the Space Hulk turn counter. So I have a screenshot of the new one is this year. I kind of went back and really coded up a custom Space Hulk turn counter, a new one, which was kind of fun. It was, but we had a new one going for that, for there. And then here's our whole 12x6 Space Hulk board set up. We were in kind of the back of the room on the bigger table. Our old Thunderhawk is back. I don't know if you can see. We'll see on that. The big changes this year was we added some. We had to add some water effect or some smoke effect. We had steam coming up.
Little steam engine.
Little steam coming up around the thing, which was a lot of fun. It was just water. Like I had been last year. I had the idea like, oh, really cool to have like some smoke thing. And then I was playing around with some of the like model train, but of those, you have to have. They have like the kind of special smoke chemical and things like that. And it just, I kind of put some energy in it, but I didn't say anything. I really was excited. And then I stumbled upon, I think it's Saucer Man, who does a lot of 3D print stuff. And then he has incorporated some of these, we'll call it special effects kind of things in there. And so I was on that. And then all of a sudden I saw he showed these little vaporizer kind of things that were doing like a vaporizer steam thing. And I'm like, wait, let's try this. This seems like it could be straightforward. So I spent not a lot, but so I took his some of his ideas, kind of reformatted it and changed it up to get what we wanted. And so we had 4 of those that were sitting around the landing pad spitting out vapor, which kept the dry convention center, at least our room, a little more humid, we like to think. But I don't know if it actually worked, but it's amazing the amount of water. Like it was probably, they were like the size of like a large mug, I would say. If you think about that, was and we would go through, like it would go through that whole thing during the day as it was spitting it out. So let me, and then we just have a lot of pictures here. I got to thank all the people who, again, John and Ben, who I wouldn't, and John especially, who I wouldn't be able to do without him around that. And then I never take pictures, so I want to thank a lot of players that were there, and I saw them taking pictures and asked them to share with me. And so a lot of them sent me back emails with pictures they'd taken that I kind of showed on here. So trying to think. Yeah, I don't remember which ones I took. Oh, this might be the and again, a good mix. Again, new people that are always like, I've been trying to get in for 6 years or 3 years, and then a lot of old names that were in there. I don't know, some of the, again, Rob, Eddie and Jose that are kind of there. I apologize if they're Kent, some of that, Tim, his son Ben. There's some really good, a lot of kind of people that we see year after year, which is always fun to get them back and chat with. And then some new people around that. So speaking of new people, some of my I think it was literally the last one we did on Saturday. And I'll apologize because I don't remember the name, but these are the 2 guys that run, I think it's Red Seal Gaming in New Jersey. Again, sometimes you get these players who just like are in it 110%. And again, he was typical, had the Jersey accent, whatever. And he was running, I think, the Ultramarine chaplain. And some of these pictures are his because he was taking a lot. He was basically real time taking pictures and sending it back to his store Discord where they were everybody at their store. And I don't know if they actually do. He said they used to do a podcast too. Cause I was like, why are you familiar? He's like, well, they had stopped by last year and they weren't playing, but they stopped by and I think I had chatted with them. Cause it took me about halfway through. Cause I'm like, why are you're like super familiar. And then I'm like, wait, and then he showed me the thing. I'm like, oh, you're the guys that own like on the from the game store. He's like, oh yeah. And real interesting. I think sounds like they were really cool vibe going out there in the New Jersey stuff. So again, elevators. What did we get through? I think we had a minimum of the IC's crew. We did do a kind of IC's game for the independent characters, Carl and that gang over there. I'm trying to think of everybody who played. I think it was Sky and Josh, and we had the bad cast guys, so Campbell and Dan, who did not have a good time, but that's I don't know if that's their fault. It was fun. We did have Carl and Shell. John and I actually took a step back and we let Carl and Shell run the Tyranids because they, at some point, they might run my old version somewhere over there on the West Coast. But those, again, we always know Shell does that. And Carl got to see a little bit of how the sausage is made and how John and I are doing some of that stuff too. So that was fun. But and we did tweak. We knew that group is a little more advanced, so we did tweak the blip mix to make it a little meaner. So that would make sense why that group got the least out. They got less than half of the 30 guys out. I think they got about 14 out. And I think, and I felt bad because Dan from the Badcast got kind of run over, but we'll blame Carl. Carl killed him, but it's really Dice that kind of. But it's kind of funny. Like I don't know, Ty, you've been through it. It's some of like John and I are always very much like coaching people on when you should take a chance and maybe when you shouldn't take a chance.
Yeah, like overextending here is a very bad idea.
Yeah. And what you find is that, again, I'm painting with a broad brush, and again, dice are dice and some of that, but what I've always seen is players who come like maybe like 40 people who are experienced gamers, but maybe have not played Space Hulk for a while or this version, right? I think experienced gamers will come in and they'll kind of be over aggressive because they kind of think they know and they will not take my advice. Like I feel like I've seen many where like, I don't know if I would do that right now. Right. Cause you still can roll bad. Right. On some of that. So some of that I think he went really aggressive early and again, the dice didn't roll his way. And then once the dominoes start to fall, it's hard to keep your squad alive. So, but yeah, again, thanks everybody. That there's some cool pictures I'll get out there. This one I have a picture of. I don't know who is all sitting around. It looks like us, and I think that might be. I think that's one of the what do we call them now? Tabletop battles guys.
Tabletop battles.
Doomhamers. I think that's Craig from. If I remember right, it was cool. What was
Reformed?
He had brought.
Gooners.
Yeah, he had brought his own Rainbow Warriors.
Okay.
And he's like, "Oh, I got my thing," and he was very cool about it. And I'm like, wait. And he got there early. You can see in this picture, he's the only one there. I think he was there early, and I'm like, well, just wait. Let's take him out. Let's see what you got. And I kind of wrote up a custom squad so he could use his guys, and use them on there. So it was kind of cool. Yeah, it was cool again to see somebody that was. Kind of brought their stuff and again super nicely painted models and we just kind of tweaked one of the squads to make it fit with the models he had, so yeah, that was pretty cool. And sorry for picture people are listening, we're walking through the many battles of Terminators trying to fight their way through the Space Hulk, and again it's always like I think we ran 7 games this year. We did 2 a day for the Friday or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then kind of 1 bonus game. John and I are trying to figure out we're getting older and trying to figure out how we retire. We either retire. Ty keeps helping, like you need to franchise and whatever. We'll see. We may cut back a little bit and only run like 1 a day for a few of the days, and maybe run a Sunday one just to do. Maybe we'll run like 1 a day for the 4 days. And then
there's something to be said for interns and reaching out to, I'm sure UW Milwaukee or MHTC or MSOE have board game, miniature gaming clubs. See if you can outsource the GMing to some interns. But yeah, lots of in-action cool shots. And I mean the photos are cool, but don't do justice to the scale and the scope of your Space Hulk game. So it is the world's greatest Space Hulk experience. It's not a game, it's an experience. Right. And we joke about that, but I do want the GoPro tour of the table where you put it on a little tiny like
thing and run it through.
Run it through. That's next year. You actually get the Space Hulk tour via eye level from like a Terminator's view.
Yep. And some of these shots are pretty cool. Some of the people, I got to thank a lot of people that shared their shots back with me, because there is a lot of cool shots from kind of model level that they sneak in there. So cool. And then I'm trying to think if I think I'll finish up with this. So one of the coolest things, again, meet a million people, have a lot of great conversations. People come back year after year. This year it was really, for me, it was really cool. At the end, we finish the game up and we give out some stickers and things like that. And Zachary and Trevor, father, son, who had played with us a couple years ago, I think, all of a sudden they're like, wait, we've got something for you. So I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that they actually made, and I have a picture of it here. So it's the kind of what do you call this, Ty?
Purity seal.
Purity seal. I mean, that's it. Yeah. So they had handmade purity seals that they had made and painted and kind of weathered. That they're like, wait, we have gifts for you, and they had ones for me, John, and Ben that they brought for us. So again, totally unexpected, just really cool. That again, they were that excited that they had to give us something. So I got it up behind me here. Something I'm really gonna treasure. That's pretty cool. So
excellent.
So I think that's it. That's Hulk.
That's Hulk. 7 Space Hulks. Right into Zombicide. So Marlon and Jonah, friends and members of the BOD at large, ran Zombicide Black Plague on a custom scenario and a ship that Jonah painted. I don't know much about the scenario other than it's kind of get to the ship and get out, I believe.
I think it was get to the ship, and then they had to clear all the zombies off the ship so that they could take off.
But not often you see a full-on pirate ship in Zombicide game. So definitely, continuing to use really cool terrain. Cool project from Jonah. But you kind of see the size of that. Zombicide is generally a board game played on tiles, and this was a port with a big ship, kind of zoned out.
And if you can,
they ran
again,
that 2 times on Thursday, twice on Friday. Then I think Saturday was Invader. Yeah.
Yep. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. If you see on the picture, there's like a pipe on that left side if you're looking at the thing. So I think that was like one of the spawn points. That was pretty cool. Like I think their spawn points were coming out of the thing on there. And then I think I have a last shot here. They had a dragon. I think they were using the dragon rules from Black Plague to
from Green Horde.
Yeah, Green Horde that came out too, and around some of that stuff too. So sounds like people had fun doing that one. And then as you were saying, they ran that Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday they were nice enough to run the Zombicide Invader set games that I had put together. We ran a different scenario than what we've done in the past. This is the one we ran. We ran this one at Midwinter there. So I think you see Mr. Dan from Cubic Shenanigans there with Marlon.
Cubic Shenanigans. He did, I think last year played Invader and may have caused some chaos and death as he went back in. This year he said he stuck to the objective and helped the group complete it in a very efficient and orderly way. So it sounds like the Invader scenario may need to get tuned up in difficulty, because I think Dan was alluding to the fact, Troy, it may have been a little too easy.
It is fairly basic.
So we gotta crank it up and provide a no survivors experience. I think,
but we can do that. I mean, there are tools at Marlon's disposal. Because you always have to. Because John and I have thought about this. Like when you sit down, like you have to kind of assess the table. You can sit down. You're like, all right, what kind of group do we have here? Are you guys like professional Zombicide players or newbies? And then we can like adjust a little bit on what your level is there too.
And then so our other gaming options in the basement of Death Room was on Saturday morning. Our dear friend Josh joined us for his Adepticon appearance on Saturday and ran his Thanos Ultimate Encounter scenario. And there is, I think that's Greggles in the upper right.
Yeah.
Is that?
And it's Cheyenne, I believe,
from the IC's group.
Yep.
And then Scott and his wife. Scott is a very talented, award-winning painter. Competes in the Challenge of the Mighty, the top mass games competition each year, and generally finishes in like the top 10. So, I think Thanos died.
I heard. I think they won. Yeah,
scenario.
I think they won. Josh was not on his game, or he wasn't being mean, or they were just good. I don't remember what the plan was. So. But yeah, I think that's kind of, that's what we ran all this stuff. Now, we'll kind of
So
jump into the. Here's the rest of our pictures are more of the social stuff that went on at.
So the next few are kind of cool shots. So on Saturday, obviously we weren't running the event. We had the table space. Brian kind of set up. So Brian Nairo, the table maestro there in the middle, set up a hobby station. He started Friday evening. He went and bought Trench Crusade models because he's like, this game's really good. Bought a warband, assembled a warband, and painted a warband in roughly 24 hours. And basically sat at that table almost all day Saturday. I think most of the day kind of painting away, doing a really good job in a really short amount of time on truly, and I'm not kidding you, from bare plastic to fully based and painted. He went and bought all of his materials at Adepticon from the vendor hall, paint, spacing materials, glue, everything, and completed a warband in a day and a half. He was in his hotel room late at night painting. He was like, he basically said, I haven't done this in a long time. Like, it relit his like hobby and miniature fire, which was awesome that he could be a part of Adepticon this year and make his return after, since kind of shuttering their operations at Anvil 8 from a Ethereum standpoint, to kind of get back in. So, and then Matt Danner painting my pigs was his hobby project for the weekend. So I think this was just, and I'm looking at some models or something there in the on the left hand side.
Cool. And then we had an appearance.
So Saturday night, I happened to catch very, very dear friend Domus, was formerly kind of ran all of the GW AOS stuff at Adepticon. He was in town to meet some friends just for dinner that evening. He wasn't really attending the con, but saw him in the hallway, got a quick selfie with him and a hug and a good catch up. So, that photo snuck in. But Adepticon for me is oftentimes about the people that you see, less about, I don't really play many games these days. I make friends and I see old friends. So it's cool to have that Domus sighting in the wild.
Cool. And then this one is that I was thinking the BOD, I didn't realize we had an only hands policy.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
So this is our only hands account, where I zoomed in on Matt painting one of the battle pigs for Relic Blade. And then I zoomed out to show that yes, I do appreciate our talent. So I actually
we're allowed to name him. Yeah, we're allowed to name our talent. It's not just random to a random person painting ties.
He does have very nice hands, though. You should consider hand modeling if his career ever peters out. Cool. And then another great person sighting, and he's actually admiring one of Brian's models from 3 feet away, but that's cut out of the photo. So he's not gesturing. He's actually holding a model 3 feet away to see if it passes snuff for the 24-hour hobby challenge. But Will Conway, awesome friend, was back in the States visiting some family in Chicago. So came down on Thursday for the day and on Saturday for the day. Spent some time with us hanging out. So good to see Will.
Yeah, it was great to see Will. Great to hang out for a while.
And he wore his BOD hoodie. He repped, he repped the brand. And this was Wednesday night when Terrace and his gang came down to play. He sat at the table, and I was texting with Brian, and I sent Brian a wild Terrace sighting. So Terrace Cassidy of Geek Nation Tours, kind of hanging out in our room. Just a quick photo. Love seeing Terrace every year. So glad we can continue to see
that. Makes me right. So I lied. So we did do 8 events because I totally forgot Wednesday night. Yeah, we did do Space Hulk for the Geek Nation Tour gang, and we did a modified rule set that we're calling the Gauntlet. I might continue to tweak that because it was a lot of fun. We basically gave everyone, I remember, was it just 2 or 3 models? I think 3 maybe. So like partial squads. We actually put 2 of those squads on each one of the sectors. And then we just threw a crazy blip mix at him that the whole idea was no one should make it off the board. I don't know if John got the complete memo because I don't think he was being as mean with the blips as I was. But that was my goal. But I think people had a lot of fun. The idea was just to kind of get people to play for a half hour, whatever, die, and then if somebody else wanted to restart or jump in, run through. So, and we had it again. It was fun because at that point you had like a dozen people on the table at one point, kind of playing. So a lot of fun on that Wednesday night when they got kind of kicked out of their room upstairs by the GW preview because it was the AV was in the same, so the sound was in their space even though their room
That's
was
right.
not in the same space. We were their refuge around that. So I'm glad it was a lot of fun again, even to have the whole crew down there for that. The next pictures here, I think there's a mix of yours, Ty, and some of mine in there, but this was
Yeah,
Saturday night for the Armies on Parade.
yeah, the Army showcase as various teams and individuals dioramas were selected to be on display and voted on. We can probably, click through and get the
Yep.
gist of them pretty quick, but some really cool, like, folks that made entire banners and kind of played off of various themes, like, your K-pop
Yeah.
demon hunter,
I
hunter
showed this
killers,
to my daughter. I had to show
the
Sarah. I'm like,
stage,
Sarah, she got a kick out of this one for sure.
and just some cool, like, use of terrain and, like, Planet of the Apes kind of. I don't know if it's Orc or Mechanicus or what, but
Yeah.
um, just different looks. And I added some, like the knight coming out of the hangar cave. Terrain isn't incredible there, but it was pretty cool to see the big model and the way people use some of the display board to tell the story. Um,
Oh, is this start of the? I don't know if it. We'll get
no,
some of
so
the.
these are some other ones, and one of the big kind of Battlefleet Gothic style ships where they had their
Ships.
army on it. Um, and then some poorly shot miniatures where I was like, "Oh, these minis actually look good," but I took the photo from too far away. Um, because Saturday night I usually have been, you know, doing some drinking, so I do the Army Showcase viewing with a few beers on my side.
Yeah, and then I think these
Um,
last few are our friends who won it all.
yes, so Adam Trunzo, Wisco Kings, always delivers stunning display boards. These truly are a work of art. And this year's project was Leviathan's Grudge. You can see the scope. I mean, it is 10 feet tall and 8 feet wide. I don't know. It's just a massive display. Um, and as you kind of zoom in on it, you can see they have, the narrative written down. They have kind of the resin acrylic kind of above sea, below sea, the tunnels. Like, I tried to capture some of the different sections,
Yeah.
and then I did a little video. You probably want to mute it because it's going to be obnoxious when we play it. But it just kind of scrolling across, um, the scope and scale, and I kind of climbed up the one tower and then came back down and across. Kind of tried to just show and feature all of the different areas and sections of their board. You don't really get to see many of the minis up close, but just trying to capture the craziness of this build.
Yep. And
That
I'm too terrible to figure out how to mute it,
in
but
there,
we'll be all right.
and it's just like, and then the Wisco Kings banner. Um, but they ended up taking home, I think, just about every award possible in this year's
Yep.
display. They had Brendan, Adam, and then so Mike Butcher couldn't attend this year due to some work stuff, and Andrew, who usually is with them. So they had two new team members, which is also impressive, partnered up. So Carson is a longtime AOS player, really good, talented technical painter who lives in the Chicago area now, and then Nick, who lives in Wisconsin, West Bend area, I think, um, who runs some other competitive events and has gotten to know Brendan over years, joined their team. So really cool showing, really great to see, and congrats to Brendan and Trunzo and those guys.
Yeah, and I do think the Army's on Parade. or Army Showcase. I want to steal the GW whatever one. So the Army Showcase is like one of my highlights for Adepticon. It is one of the reasons like we don't run. I'm like, I don't want to run events late Saturday because I love being able to make sure we have time to go around and check that out around some of that. So yeah, it again, there's a few pictures, and if you go on the internet, you'll see more. But pictures, it's really hard to capture what you're seeing. Like to see it in person is just to give you the full thing of all the energy and the creativity that all the different groups put in is pretty amazing. And I imagine the judges have a lot of work to to figure that out too. So this I just have a quick picture of the painting area. Again, I don't take advantage of it, but it is pretty impressive. Like the open painting area where you have the painters and artists, and there are people that spend their whole days down on the cool stuff there. And they have natural light. Yeah.
Tons of paint options too. They really expanded that. Like all the brands, all the lights, the different wet palettes. Like it's really impressive.
Cool. And then I have a few just random shots as we went around. These guys were above us on the second floor. These are if you know Necromunda, and these guys are also local. They actually operate out of Old Guard Games. If you go JD and the Stump, they have a YouTube channel. If you kind of does some really cool stuff, and chatted with him last year and chatted a little bit last year. And that's what they call the wall. They have this Necromunda that you can play kind of Necromunda vertically on this wall that's, I don't know, right? It's probably 3 feet high and 8 feet, 6 to 8 feet wide. And it's all kind of modular that they built out, and just kind of the cool weathering around some of that. And then I just have some, again, as I walked around a little bit, this is some Adeptus Titanicus that, again, super cool painted that people have running around. And campaign, I think this was like they had so if you remember the old, like, what's it called? I don't remember what
Planetary Empires.
Planetary Empires or something. Yeah, where you had and now you can 3D print those tiles that there are hexes that kind of can do your campaign. And I think that over the weekend, I believe that's what they were doing, is the different games that people were playing of kind of Adeptus or Legions Imperialis or so forth, all went into that kind of their campaign stuff, which is pretty cool. So and then anything else before we get to Sunday night? So here's the picture of Sunday night. I think Ty, you had gotten through it all. I think you tapped out for late Saturday or late Sunday.
I ended up getting a pretty rough cold too. I was pretty sick by the end of Adepticon, so I went home and crashed out and did not make it back for the dinner and board games with the Geek Nation game.
So we usually like at least I start and end with Geek Nation tours and Terrace, and so they invite us to their kind of closing dinner on Sunday night. So we pack up and load and get everything out on Sunday afternoon. Then we kind of chill for a little bit, and then we come back downtown and hang out. And I think it's something to say. Like, I think last year was I don't know. I think because it was the first year, it was a little more stressful and stuff like that. I mean, I was probably where you were last year, or Ty. I probably should have tapped out. Like, I think I was mentally completely fried by Sunday night last year around that. But this year I actually felt really good. Like, we ended up hanging out. We played Dungeon Quest. I should add that to my thing. We actually broke out Dungeon Quest and played that until I don't know. I think we didn't wrap things up till after 10:30, 11 by the time we kind of packed out and moved out there. All I'll say is we had some really good crew there. We did end up, again, we don't get a lot of times terraces running around trying to keep things going. It was nice to kind of relax, had some drinks. We told a lot of stories. Ones I can't really repeat. But it was interesting because you have some, again, Terrace has worked with so many people in the industry. We did have I had some interesting stories from, and then I think you talked to him last year, Dan, who he works in the industry and some of that. And we had told some good stories and had some fun and got to kind of chill out and play again, if you know Dungeon Quest, it's very much beer and pretzels, run into the dungeon and die kind of thing. So it was fun to just kind of play that as well.
It's run into the dungeon and get out with all your treasure.
One person did, and that's who won. So I think I'm trying to think, it might have been Eddie. I'm trying to think who was, because Eddie and Jose were playing with us, long-term Geek Nation tour guys who play in our Space Hulk every year. We're hanging out with them too, and Frank, and again, getting to know those guys. There's a lot of returning guys that do Geek Nation tours that we've gotten to know over the years. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah. And again, anytime we can hang out with Terrace is a blast.
So Troy, one thing we didn't talk about and we didn't have any photos of was the vendor hall. So quick, before we wrap up Adepticon, recap and get into the 100 episodes of Playin and Slayin, I do want to know, did you bring anything home that you want to call out? Any cool purchases?
I did not. It was funny. I went through a lot of, I think I walked through, again, a really cool hall, right? I mean, the hall was bigger and better than ever. Lots of paint. I think it's always heard from people. There's lots of paint company. Now it feels like the paint market might be a little set. I don't know. I guess everybody feels a little saturated maybe with paint companies, but the one thing I did buy, and where do I have it? I think I put it away. Kind of going back maybe to about there was a huge Archon Studios, probably had almost as big a booth as GW. And as you said, they're doing I think behind the scenes, they're doing the miniatures for Relic Blade. But if you look at what they are doing, like advertising their brands, one of them is kind of the StarCraft. That was huge. And I did buy a box. I did grab one. I didn't grab the starter. I just grabbed the box with who's the heroine in there? What's her name? I just grabbed the Kerrigan. I grabbed the Kerrigan whatever box because I'm like, all right, that might be just a paint kind of fun project on some of that. But so I think that was really the only like miniatures. And then I think I grabbed like the GW event model. I usually end up grabbing, so I think I kind of grabbed that. And then maybe it's I don't know if you shop the Michigan Toy Company. They were actually out in the hall, but they have a lot of hobby, anything you can think of, from like kind of hobbies, paints, brushes, tools, a lot of the cool. And I think I ended up picking up, there was a couple of paints and maybe some things I was getting from them on. That was like the very end of the day, Sunday, and they had a few specials, I think, of some stuff that wasn't extraordinary, but it was cool to see them because I do like mail order from them a lot because they tend to have a lot of the things on there. But that was about it. I mean, it's funny. Like I really usually don't have anything I like have to have when I go to Adepticon, but it is fun to shop without actually buying. I don't know. Did you come buy anything?
So every year I stop at Monument Hobbies because I've become a pro acryl lifer. And this year, their new paint set for the show, I don't have the box, but I have the tray. Some of the paints are in use at my hobby desk. But it is their new one step. So it is their kind of approach to like a contrast or a speed paint. And their pigmentation is so good on their colors. I was really interested to see how their take on this is, and it's some really good color choices, really good coverage. You can thin them even more to really glaze with them versus using them like a contrast, because it's basically just a thinned down version of their paints. So like you can take their one step like medium and add it to any of your pro acrylic colors to make
Right,
your
to
own
make your
version
own. Yep.
of a one-step paint. But pretty good stuff. So I've enjoyed that. I've been playing around with some of their new colors, and then I felt terrible. The guy, so Mindworks does resin minis, like display minis, sculptures, busts for like hobbyists and painting. They basically had a card table that the guy was sitting at for most of the weekend because their shipment was all stuck through a customs and um, waiting in the States to get in and didn't make it. And then I think it was late Friday evening, they basically had somebody drive it all the way from New York to be there. So Saturday morning, they finally had their inventory. And Gabe and Brian had introduced me to Mindworks. And last year I bought the bruschetta, like Eowyn, slaying the Witch King. And this year, they're one of their new models. I'll hold it up for the display.
Yeah.
Is a limited run. I think they made 300 of them. It's this gnome bruiser, kind of like a dwarf warrior. And so Mindworks, and they do these display minis that are just really really cool looking, and it's 1/24th scale resin cast. So I picked that one up. I think I got number 3 out of 300. So I might try to maybe flex and try to paint something like cool here. I keep telling myself I'm going to do it. I still have you in and I have this, and I'm like, I'm kind of nervous to like do a hobby project of that level with my kind of sledgehammer approach to painting, but could be fun. So those were two purchases that I made that I was pretty pleased. And then I also dropped some money at the Relic Blade booth and picked up a few random minis and Cursebreaker, which is like his version of what I would call like Frostgrave, where you're using a tome of magic and a wizard, kind of fighting battles against other wizards with books of magic. So, but Adepticon, always fun. Hopefully the review in pictures was enjoyable. If you have any questions, leave comments. Definitely, but plenty of people that I didn't name that I saw, like every day at Adepticon is like, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, awesome. How have you been? But you're catching up with everybody over the event of the weekend. So
yeah, and I didn't get to spend a ton. I mean, Golden Demon was huge, but I just didn't get a lot of time to spend at the cabinets around some of those, and they were busy, which is good. I mean, they was the biggest Golden Demon ever in the United States, at least, and and everybody wanted to see it, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so I know people were complaining a little bit of like your wait. I'm like, I don't know. That's kind of I don't know. Yeah, you want people to see it, but in the end,
3 a.m.
right? It's like if you want to go, just go when nobody else is going. Like I don't, because in the end, it's a miniature. It like I don't know. Like in first and foremost, it's a miniature judging competition, not a spectator event. So like it needs to be optimized for judging the miniatures, not for you to walk by and see them. So I don't know. That's just me. But I get it. People want to see him because I want to see him too. Like there's nothing. I don't care how many pictures you see. Like a lot of the stuff we showed you, right? We can show you a million pictures. It is not the same as seeing a lot of these things in person. It is. It's a whole different level when you can see, especially those crazy Golden Demon miniatures. If you can see them in person is a whole nother level when you understand to see what those people do. So cool.
All right.
Is that Adepticon until what do we have next year? We already have dates for next year. It's in
April.
It's a little further. Yeah. So we have a little more time. So extra week. We can procrastinate an extra week.
Yeah. After Easter, I think, which means we might get Bryce because it won't align with spring break, hopefully. But yeah, speaking of Bryce, 100 episodes of Playin and Slayin. Do you want to like kick off the celebration with just some of the stats?
Sure. So what we kicked, it was interesting because I think you and I were we rebranded and gave birth, I guess, is that what we did? Gave birth to creation of Playin and Slayin in March of 2017. I think we
My
kind of
goodness.
aligned it around, speaking of Adepticon, I think that's what we did. We kind of aligned it around when we did if you go back in ancient history, we had the podcast with Josh and other gang if you go way back of why can't the name is
roughly 50 episodes of Games, Booze, and the Art of.
And the Art of before that. And which was very you think this is pretty casual. That was really casual.
Yeah. I would even say chaotic at times.
But we're like, oh, we're gonna get semi-serious about doing a podcast and put all the things around it. So that and we aligned that right around with Adepticon in 2017. And as Ty said, we have really done this is either 108 or 109 episodes if you count some of our short ones and that doesn't even count some of our YouTube only stuff. Like we did a bunch of Adepticon preview stuff last year. And that was a little different on some of that. Brian Nairo, who we just talked about, was our first guest that we had on that first episode, which was again kind of a nice
legendary
full circle moment. Yeah, and kind of a first nice full circle moment of having him back at Adepticon this year and seeing what through that. So yeah, and talked about that. Bryce, and you might, because you met Bryce first. I mean, we met Bryce through AOS, I believe, right? Or through a mutual friend on AOS.
Through Brendan at the Games Workshop, Lehman Plaza, where Heath had been the manager and was teaching Bryce how to paint, and then met him through AOS and that guys from Milwaukee club. So
there we go. And speaking of Heath, I did see Heath. I have Heath this vision of seeing Heath at Adepticon.
He hung out for a while,
I believe I was in the middle of Space Hulk. So it's like one of those ones where I have this like kind of a half memory of chatting with him for a little bit, kind of in the middle of games or in something that. So when you said that, I'm like, oh, right, yeah, we did. Again, it is so much fun to run into people. So. But yeah, Bryce started. Bryce kind of showed up in our group, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit. Like he was always excited to kind of join in, and we always joked he was the intern because he was always like, "Hey, can I jump in?" So, and I think that was around, if I poked it right, around about a year later, around sometime around 2018 or something like that. You start to get some Bryce.
2019.
You get some Bryce appearances in there and continue. And he graduated all the way up to full host.
Fourth chair and then third chair when Josh took his leave of absence, a handful of episodes ago. And
then the other, again, people we kind of is Raph Cordero from Tabletop
Battles.
See, I'm going to use all the wrong things. X Goonhammer, XGH. Can we just call it GH?
Maybe XGH.
XGH. But again, I met Raph through actually the Independent Characters Discord, I believe.
One of the moderators there.
And that was through whatever. And we actually met at a Gen Con. We were both going to Gen Con and just like, hey, you want to meet up? And I think we played some Combat Patrol and stuff like that, and kind of hit it off. And then we kind of had Raph on in 2020, and had maybe we'll talk about. I don't want to steal that, but we'll talk about that episode probably a little bit later. And then it's continued. Again, he's semi-local, Chicago area, so we've been able to meet up with him in person, and then we've had him back on the show. I think he's
attended Playin and Slayin weekenders,
and we've had him. I think we've had him as a guest multiple times, and even as a guest host this year when we were trying to fill the third chair for a little bit of that. So it's been great getting to know Raph even more and more, and like you said, and have him. He's really part of the group now as we pull in. So I think that's kind of the
that's
crazy.
our
Again, you
history
can
lesson.
go on if you go. There is a play, and people probably don't go very often, but there is a Playin and Slayin.com that you can go, and I don't know how many people actually get the. I assume most people get it from their podcast thing or whatever. But if you go on that site, you do see all the episodes that are on there, and you can download and listen around all those things. But and see all the different episodes are there, and it didn't always. Again, if I go technically behind the scenes, we actually didn't. We weren't always. We didn't always have playinandslayin.com. We're kind of doing it for people that know podcasting. We actually used WordPress site to publish it out for probably half the first 50 episodes, and then we went to more. I think we used BuzzFeed or something like that. One of the more professional hosts now to do a little bit more of that work through some of that. So, but that's. And again, maybe it's
50 episodes ago we started doing YouTube, and then
I didn't even look at YouTube to see. I think you're right. It's about 50, which is crazy. Like I think like, we only been doing YouTube for a few years. So like, no, I guess it's been since 2019 or 20 probably when we started doing the YouTube side. So
doing some video when we were remote recording, because originally we'd all get together in the same room and record for the first 40 to 50 episodes, and then let's go through. I did kind of a time capsule of moments, and I'll kind of share them. So, and I'll paraphrase, but I think our early episodes, I describe it as finding our stride. I think we were trying to figure out what are some segments we could do, what can we talk about, interviews we could get on. But I think episodes 1 through like 15, the kind of, let's call it year 1 plus, you'll see, I think we were trying to lean into like gamer origins and 20 questions, and kind of doing some things with guests to find what was our niche. And I think we landed on kind of our conversational style, making listeners feel like they're sitting at the table catching up with their friends, talking about what they've been playing. And then also the branding, when we talked about it, I think it was Danner who said it's on the shirts, like Playin and Slayin. It's been part of the BOD, like, ethos. Why isn't that your title? And we're like, that's a really good idea. It's almost like you do marketing.
Yep. And I think we were at a Gen Con. I literally think we were at a Gen Con. We had all had our shirts on or whatever. And just chatting about whatever. And Danner just points at somebody like, there it is.
And then like interviewing friends became interviewing community hobby personalities who are now friends. I think that was a cool transition of the show too, where it's like, hey, we know you do this. And then it became, hey, we have Raph on. Hey, we get introduced to this person, like Lonely Havoc, Stan, or I mean, heck, Elena, dear friend, came on, and thinking where her career has gone over the last 9 years is one of the hugest names, like artists in the Magic scene, and like countless others, that we've Davis, AOS Reminders, and Mini Stomp, Landmine, and like just all of these people that we've had on and talked with. And then like I also want to talk a little bit before I get into kind of like, some of the specific episodes, but just what the show has been from a chance to like channel creative energy. Like I've always been a creator and a storyteller. That like I like that. But I never felt like I had a way to do it. I had a film background in college. Like I wanted to tell stories and make movies, and I went to work for a bank and lost my like creative vision, and podcasting became an avenue to like make something and share something and like yes, now it's become a chance to catch up and a chance to like talk and find out what's going on in our friends and the others' lives. But it's just been a huge like avenue for me to kind of pursue some sense of creating, like and our small corner of the internet and
Yeah.
the hundreds or thousand downloads, like, and people we've met through the show. It's just been an incredible experience for over 9 years,
Yeah.
almost 10 years of more than 10 when we think about our other shows,
Yeah.
prior to Playin and Slayin.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, we'll say, right. It's quality, not quantity, right. On some of that. And there is something to be said for that, right? I mean, there are a million shows that pod fade and um, are on some of that. And, we've always kind of had the mantra of like, we're going to do it as long as we keep having fun. And also we're going to do it in a way that's fun. Like we didn't want it to feel like a job. We didn't want it to feel, as soon as it kind of felt like that, then either we needed to change something. And there were times when the three or four of us would have a little bit of chat, like, oh, what does this feel like? Where do we want to go around some of that? Yeah, to change that. But it, again, just kind of keeping the steady beat of about a month, about once a month, right? We don't always hit that, but just kind of continue to go out there um, and yeah, as you said, the create. It's a little bit. I mean, I enjoy the creativity part. There's some things sometimes I dread the editing, but although I've gotten better at that, whatever. But there is that when I get it done and I look at it and then I hit publish, I still get this endorphin rush. Like you said, it's that like
Yeah.
I created something and get to push it, and it goes out into the world, right? For good or bad or whatever. You're like, people are going to react to it in some way. Um, and I do enjoy the technology side of the that. And as we've continued to explore new things, it was fun to start to, we used to do YouTube and video. There's some, again, we're not doing, again, it's always a hobby. I mean, there's a million things always like, we could do that. We could do that better. And what, so it's kind of always that balance. Cause I think and maybe it's you and I sometimes are like, maybe we should get more serious. And then life gets in the way around some of that. But yeah. So again, and the creative aspect and getting, like you said, getting to meet different people. Again, not that I'm always like, we could interview more people, and maybe we probably should, and we do, because I enjoy it's like there's a lot of work. Again, it's a lot of work just to get those things lined up behind the
Yeah.
scenes. But once
The
you do it,
schedule.
you're like, oh my, this was the best. I mean, I think we'll talk about some of that. Like a lot of our favorite
Yeah.
episodes are when we have been able to get have some people on and have some really good conversations. But there is always, there's people don't always see what goes on behind the scenes to make all the magic happen. So.
And then so obviously we started recording in Josh's basement, or your house in your basement, and it was the BOD studio. Then the world kind of changed, in 2019
Mm.
uh with COVID, and we kind of went to remote, which has become the way we record most of our content now, from our own homes, just because that's how we've kind of set it up and
Mm.
get the split. And now that we're doing YouTube, it's also harder. I
Yep.
think we've done a couple when we're at a weekender or we're somewhere where we all record in person. But I call it the COVID survival pack. So I think about like that time and what was going on, and just a sense of like isolation, I think that a lot of us were feeling.
Yep.
And the show is a way to kind of still connect and still keep some normalcy for those months, of um, let's call it quarantine, whatever you
Yep.
want to call it, remote work, remote school, remote everything. But it let some normalcy stay, and hopefully, my thought was always to like people had a lot of time to listen
Yep.
and look for content. So it's always cool to know that there's somebody downloading, somebody on the other end. We refer to them as our listeners, our friends,
Yep.
whatever it may be. um, it was also very helpful for me to have something to kind of pour some energy into during those years. Um, and the format, the video and kind of recording, and we all have webcams, we all have
Yeah.
mics and headsets, and making it happen was always kind of, I'm sure you had to change kind of the editing approach and multiple tracks and all that, but
Yeah.
um,
Well, it's kind of fun. Like we were just, chatting about at some point. There's nothing to as this is an easier, right, and more convenient format. That said, there's nothing like recording in person. Like it is a little bit
yeah,
different vibe on
yeah,
some of that, but technically it's a big hurt. Like there's a big difference. Like because every once in a while we kind of think about it, like, oh, we should probably do something there, and I'm always like, oh yeah, we probably could do that, but it's going to be and it's funny even as because I do our work podcast too, which we do live, and in there, and I do a very simple video for that, and even there I'm like, oh, we could, and I can use that as I always use that as my some ways my test, like we can test that and some things there, and then maybe I'll bring that over to this this podcast at some point. But yeah, I think the COVID times were interesting, right? Because it um, force some changes, but in some of those things, again, in the whole world, right? Some of those things have stuck around, and actually, I mean, a little bit of, we'll call it silver lining, right? Some things have changed a little bit. Like the good things have stuck around, hopefully, around some of that. And I don't know, maybe I'll call it the cutting room floor. Things that, what I always wish we would have actually maybe recorded and put in an episode is and we have done over the years, is like some of our book clubs. Like we did, especially during COVID, we were doing more and more kind of book club reading with a
yeah.
lot of the same group. And there was some great conversations. And I especially remember one during COVID, maybe just because we were all kind of very isolated. It was probably it was probably the first one, and I think our most attended, but it was great because I feel like we had like 10 people on chatting about, I can't remember what the heck the book was that we talked about. Like, I don't, maybe we didn't, none of us cared. We just always wanted, wanted a reason to get in chat around some of that. But I always was like, oh man, I should have pressed record and saved some of that stuff. So.
Absolutely. Then Bryce's journey, we talked about it, I think, in the intro, the intern to host, and Josh's shift from producer, because he used to do a lot of that editing and stuff for the original show. To kind of Troy, your journey into editing and producing the show. So
Yeah.
it's been, I however have picked up no new skills. I just talk and put loose notes into a document week over week. But then also, some episodes that really kind of, I can't mention them all because I'd be going through a list of 100 episodes and restating. But we've already talked about some of the folks, but there was an episode that we did with Raf, one of our first kind of discussions with Raf, where we sat down and we talked about different voices, diversity in gaming and in hobby, and some ways that we could open up avenues to different content creators and different voices in both the hobby and literature. And that came at a point, I think, in our country where there was a lot of strife over um, very, very divided time. I think that came right on the heels of like George Floyd and some of what was happening
Yeah.
in the Twin Cities at that point in time. And like, understand, it's crazy that in 6 years we can talk about historical context and like these moments that kind of broke the like the mold for how things had been.
Yep.
But that episode with Raf is one that I really, really treasured kind of making, because I think it's an important topic. And it's also tough because I like to think we all try to be allies in our own way, but we all at the end of the day are males, Caucasian,
Right. Yeah.
like we're not a diverse crew or group, and
Yep.
it was cool to kind of talk with Raph and just share some ideas and promote some voices and other things that were important.
Yep. No, I agree. I think it's probably the episode I'm most proud of, right? Like it again, we do a lot of goofing around and whatever, but yeah, in some ways it felt like, yeah, that was one that we had some semi-serious conversations on, again, where the world was. Episode 46, if you want to go back, episode 46, again, it was July of 2020. Again, if you know your history, that was right in the middle of a lot of stuff around that. But again, thanks to Raph. I mean, it was part of our, we were just getting to know him at that time too.
Yeah.
And it was, it was awesome. Again, what he brought to that conversation and what we did. So.
And then a few years later, another episode, we talk a lot about independent characters and kind of that partnership through Space Hulk, but Carl Tuttle came on to join us, and I think reset the course of all of our Audible listening for the next few years by introducing us to the work of Matt Dinneman and Jeffrey Hayes, I think is the narrator.
Yep.
Or Dungeon Crawler Carl, and he shared how it's a book series he's been listening to, the connection between the character Carl and his name Carl, funny, but we all took to it and we've all loved it, and it's become a frequent part of our library discussions. I think that was in 2023 where we talked with Carl, probably right on the eve of a Adepticon or around an Adepticon.
No, it was the summer. It was summer again, July of 2023. Yeah,
okay.
Episode 72. We had Carl on. Again, it was fun. At that point, I had known him through Space Hulk and Adepticon for a couple of years, around some of that. And it was, I think that again, that was a fun episode because we didn't talk about 40K. We talked about all the other stuff. I mean, Carl's a big gamer and a very stuff, and very much a role player and things like that, and reader, very much reader. So yeah, was on the cutting edge of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and very, very cool.
He also talked about F1, and before that I had zero interest in racing or cars, but my son is a bit of a car head, and we started watching some F1 races to last year having the F1 Pro like membership to streaming races, and now like checking in and seeing what's happening in the sport and watching the Netflix series. So Carl also introduced me to that there's this whole world of high performance auto racing that I knew was a thing, but I was like, who cares? And now I'm like interested in the changing storylines and where the drivers are and what contracts look like and how long before Max leaves to go pursue a career in like other circuits and other races. But
now I just got to get you to play all the racing games, Ty.
Yeah, let's go.
There is a weekender where I bring you guys, I lock you in a room, and we're just playing racing games for 48 hours.
I hope you set up like 4 iRacing rigs and we just like do 24 hours of Le Mans like in driving rigs. We each take a 4-hour shift and
do there is I believe you can do that with iRacing. So
yeah. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I definitely would. Other episodes, so for a long time, we would I did some vampire actual play, like live play with Andrew, Mr. Mephisto, when he was doing AOS Rantcast, and I was on Rantcast, and I kind of said I'd return the favor, have him on. We had our longest episode of Playin and Slayin.
I think it still wins. Yep.
Almost 3.5 hours, maybe.
Yep.
Maybe more. Of talking about storytelling and RPGs, primarily with Andrew. Then we did his charity stream where I think we did a dramatic reading of, I can't remember what, but something. There was a dramatic reading. There was some discussion.
It's the worst movie ever. I can't think of the name of it, but that's its call line. Yep.
So just awesome stuff. Our relationship with Anvilate. So we talked about Brian, episode 1, and Will. They'd been on a couple of episodes, and then when dear friends Paul and Jen DK kind of did the novel and the RPG, and then what they've done with the Anvilate brand since then. Talking with Aaron Darland and Paul about the Ethereum RPG. So just cool connection with Anvilate and their various games. And go to the episode guide and you can find some of these. I'm doing a bad job of giving episodes, but and then one other thing that we introduced in a few episodes, and I always like doing, is the Play It or Slay It segment, where we take something that's a lower price point, so it's not a huge, and we kind of break it down and review it, and then say if we play it or slay it, as a fun concept to kind of. And oftentimes, spoiler alert, we're probably playing it because if we're talking about it, we likely bought it, but it's still fun to sometimes play the devil's advocate side of things as well. Troy, any episodes or moments? And there's so many, like Matt FADEBACK, when we talked to him, and like, I can't name 100 episodes, but there's just some.
I'm trying to think. I mean, we hit a lot of the high ones. I'm just trying. Again, a lot of them is the guests that we had on over the years has been great. If you remember, I mean, we had Steve Herner on. I remember that.
Yeah.
Just, what
Story
a
time with Steve.
Great again, just one of those great conversation. Someone who had been in the hobby for as long as I had. I think that was a lot of the things there, and around that is one of my favorite. You hit, again, when we had FADEBACK and Matt and his son on to chat about that, and it's been, again, we've caught up with him a little bit at Gen Con the last couple of years, which has been kind of cool. Not that he really remembers us, but he pretends to remember us, which is always good. And I don't know all the origin story, but we go back again. We mentioned our Cubic Shenanigan friends, so I mean, Dan kind of was a listener of us and inspired to kind of kick off Cubic Shenanigans with Brendan, and again, they doubled our output in terms of what they're doing.
They're closer to 200 than
that. But it's really cool. Again, as I remember when we first met Dan, but I remember coming up.
So I remember meeting Dan. It was an Ethereum game, because Brian said, "Hey, Ty, there's this guy that picked up the game. He's in the Milwaukee area. Can I introduce you guys?" So Brian shared contact info, and I went to Dan's apartment when he and his wife were living near downtown, kind of along the river condos, and met a stranger to play Ethereum at Dan's house, and have since then guested on an episode or two with him, and done like Battletome reviews, and gotten to know him very well. So that was the introduction to Dan. Was, "Hey, Ty, this guy bought my game and is looking for people to play, and locally he's in Milwaukee. Would you be up for it?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go."
So cool. Again, we have so many stories of all these people that we've met over the years through gaming, the podcast, friends of friends, as we continue to pull people. If you want, I don't know if we should recommend whatever, but we did have Dr. Gabe on at one
medical
point.
Advice with Dr. Gabe. We asked him such things as, should you super glue wounds inflicted by hobby knives, what the best tasting Games Workshop Citadel paints are, questions about how to handle Nurgle's blessings. I mean, he really ran the full gamut of not actual medical advice from a real doctor. We need to have him back. I think what we really need to do is ask, we've learned a lot over the last 5 years about, vaccines and various things. We need to have him back to ask him about maybe 40K, Medicaid knowledge. We'll go away from the fantasy theme into the far future of grim darkness. So Troy, let's do this, because that's 100 episodes of memories and celebration. What's like 1 or 2 episodes that you want to do that we haven't done? Like, what are some things you know in the next 100 that you hope?
But then people are like gonna hold me. No, they won't hold us to it. So that's good.
No.
That's a good. What are yours? You have to fill. You have to fill. I think.
Yeah. So I want to do an actual play episode. You know, where I run a game for maybe it's you, Bryce, Josh, Raph, and somebody else. So I want to do an actual play, RPG one shot. I know that would be a nightmare to edit, but I want to do that. I also want to do a brothers episode where we get Tom, Ben, and John on with the two of us and talk about gaming as a family and brothers in the hobby. Because we talk about them almost every episode.
Yep.
But I think I want to do that. And then the other thing I want to do is I don't know how we would do it, but I want to get Dan Abnett for an interview. Like,
I don't think I'd be able to talk. I don't think I would be able to talk. I would be just like, I would be so like, how do I get over all the nerves?
I'd help you.
And
I'd facilitate, and but I want to get at. I don't know how. I don't even know where we could start that process.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are like 3 things that I would love to do, or episode concepts that I would like to try to line up.
So you gave me some time. So one thing I'd love to do, and maybe this one's actually doable, maybe not. I'd love to have Elena back after, right? I mean, compared, like you talked about, I mean, where her career is now compared to when we talked to her.
Yeah.
Again, almost 10 years, right? Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm crazy at that. And it's crazy to think that, I've known her for 50. You've known her longer than that. I've known her for like 15 years, 16 years.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting. Again, it maybe doesn't align with all our gaming type listeners, but I think there's, I'm really, I mean, her creative process and that whole industry and things is pretty interesting around some of that. And maybe mine too. I think I'd love to do, I mean, we just talked about there's a hurdle, but I'd love to be able to do a little bit more like in studio, like let's get a couple dual camera kind of shot, be able to do a little bit more, some episodes in studio together. Cause I do think there's a little bit different dynamic. We can turn the VOD into our studio. And cause I have all this stuff, it's a little bit of a little effort to do that, and it's a little more coordination, but it's not like we're going to do it every time, but I think we could figure out how to do it 1 or 2 times here around some of that. And I might have some secret, it's probably illegal because it was probably recorded without knowledge, but I believe I do have some actual play footage from our COVID Outbreak Undead episode somewhere. I don't remember how. I think I was testing something or whatever, and so I had some. I think there somewhere in the archives I actually have some of that, but I don't know if I can listen to that because that I was still mentally disturbed from scarred from that role playing game.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I treated all of your neighbors poorly, Josh and you.
Well, that's a whole nother episode to talk about. Should you really play role play reality
yourself?
Yourself in reality. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, like you said, maybe it's. And we should dive down and get a few more interviews lined up, because I think as we look back, those are some of our favorite episodes, and it's just getting all the schedules to align, getting all the herding all the cats is a little tricky.
Yeah. All right. Well, Troy, 100+ episodes. as always, there hasn't been an episode that happened without you
or you.
or without me. So when we think about 100, Josh was there for many of them, Bryce was there for many of them, but it's always been, the it's like two co-pilots. I can't say one of us is a pilot, the other is a co-pilot. It's like Sky Team every episode, trying to land the plane.
And if people would know, that's a lot to happen, because a lot of times we do not do a lot of prep. So there is a lot of times when we are on the fly or going off cues on where we think we should be going next, and so
just winging it.
Yep.
That's the way it should be. But yeah, so what I meant by saying you've always been there is thank you. It is truly something that I love to do, and wouldn't do it with anyone else. Truly, like if you were to be like, time hanging up the microphone, I would be like, all right, well, Playin and Slayin, comes to rest here. It's not continuing. So thank you for being the partner in crime and the true brains behind the operation.
Oh no, thank you, and likewise. I mean, we wouldn't, without the golden voice, we would not be where we are today. But no, and you are more than the voice. I mean, it is a lot of our again, appreciate the collaboration as we try and figure this out always, and what should we talk about, and what do we think is going to be interesting, and also jabbing us, because every once in a while it's the
hey guys,
let's get people on schedule, let's get going. Right? As much as I do it, I think it, and then literally I think it, and then but I'm always like maybe too nice, and I don't want to poke everyone, and then you're like, let's go, and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go.
So and also, thanking Josh, Bryce, although they may not be here for this episode or for the last few episodes, truly value their voices, opinions, comedy, thoughtfulness, everything that goes with it. And then, last but certainly not least, a podcast is only heard by others if you download and subscribe and come find us. And want to thank the people over the years that have reached out via messages or bumping in at a convention or the comments on YouTube. Every little thing just proves and validates that there are people out there listening. And truly grateful if you have ever downloaded an episode, if you have ever listened, liked, viewed, whatever. Like, truly appreciate every single interaction we've had with listeners.
Yep, I am always still, again, because it doesn't happen too often, and usually only at Adepticon, but you do run people like, yes, I listened to all your, and you're like, whoa, you listen to all our episodes.
And okay,
like, you're
so
those three people. There we go. So we know two of the
name I left out, but he's truly become like a friend that I talk to and hang out with. Josh, like, listen to the show, met him at Adepticon. He played Space Hulk, like, and he's now, I think of him as one of the gang. Discord, like, talk, have a hobby hangout, catch up on life and kids and work, and like, but that was somebody that listened, that played in the event, that now is like a very good friend. So just the show has truly like brought friends into our circle. So all right, well, I think that's gonna bring us to the the boring part of the episode, where I talk about what's coming up and where we'll be. So at the time of recording, this is only a couple days away, but Gaming Hoopla, a board game kind of show, is this coming weekend, May 1st through the 3rd, at the Baird Center. My assumption is they'll have one of the parts of it. They probably won't be in the entire Baird Center.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
But is that Milcog? I think the Milwaukee Company of Gamers, kind of that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I should know, because affiliate, and some of that because I think we mentioned one of my coworkers, Arthur, has really been involved with that group, and I know they have a charity involved with them, and really trying to get that. So again, hopefully we'll get we'll be really if this might be out as it's going on, but
but if you get a chance,
pretty cool, and it's been interesting to see it as a small. It started out as kind of this small kind of they would meet and board game or whatever, and now it's kind of cool to see it in a big venue, multiple days. Again, a lot of support going on. So, and I don't know if I'm going to make it over there, but hopefully,
it's going to be tough this weekend, but we'll see. Maybe Sunday I can at least swing out for a little bit. And then right around the corner is summer, and with summer comes Gen Con. I will not be at Gen Con this year. I think you are going.
I think I'm good. Yeah, right now I have plans to go. I mean, it's going to be, I think, the father-daughter show again. So I'm trying to. I think Sarah's still in with it. So that's where we are now. I think events start to the catalog goes open in the next week or two here. When you're listening to this, I think it's the initial one's up, and then the event disappointment happens in a couple of weeks. So,
yep, that as always.
Yep.
See if you win the lottery. But once again, obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, I truly appreciate it. Like, subscribe. Do the clicks on screen, leave the comments, all that fun stuff. If you're listening on iTunes, quick review. I don't know the last time I actually looked if people write reviews.
I actually didn't look. I haven't looked either.
So I might just
YouTube comments are what we actually see. Yeah, actually what we see more often than else.
But you can always contact us at info@basementofdeath.com or any of our names. Find us on basementofdeath.com, playinandslayin.com, as we talked about for all the episode lists. Or Tabletop Battles Media Network. I think, like I said, search Playin and Slayin on Tabletop Battles main page, and you can get to some of the posts that go up there. You can also, if you're a Patreon member at Tabletop Battles, you can listen to Raph and I every month or so talk about campaign games. We have our post Adepticon kind of Trench Crusade, more detailed than the nitty gritty of the event, coming up soon. On the campaign trail. So definitely check that out. It's a good place to send your $5 or whatever a month. I think you get more than you do from a Warhammer Plus subscription for roughly the same price. So go do that. Troy, any other closing before we bring the curtain down?
Again, thanks to everybody who listens and subscribes, and again, and feel free to comment, reach out. Again, if there's stuff, because we talked about ideas that you want us to do and that we're not, we're always open to that. Because if there's stuff that you think, this would be really, we think this would be great. Happy to share it. Some of that stuff.
If you want to have a Jacob Berry running for public office campaign, town hall, maybe we get the county commission candidate Jacob Berry in Wilson County, Tennessee on for an episode. Like, if that's what you want, let us know. We'll make it happen. We'll become a political show for an episode.
Yep. Then we don't we have to then have his opponent on for equal time?
We probably do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Under those. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. 2 episodes
out of compliance with the FCC or whatever controls podcast licensing and decency. All right. I've rambled enough. I think we're at the 3-hour mark. So thank you all for listening. It's been a blast, but we'll wrap up episode 100. And please, everyone, keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying.